2, 1, and recording. I got off work. It's got to be record time between work and podcast. I don't think I've ever done under 2 hours. This is 35 minutes. 35 minutes ago, I was serving alcohol to fat Karens who wouldn't wear a mask. Now I'm here. Boom. Record time.
Sounds right. That is the story of my life that you are dealing with right there. Like, not even a joke.
So, well, I was going to say introduce yourself and let's talk. But I mean, I just kind of let's go on what we were just talking about. Live streaming. I haven't live streamed this. This is episode 197. And I started December 12th of last year, man. And I'm figuring this shit out as I go. Let's just fucking do it live every day.
I know that feeling.
Yeah, episode 50 when I had Dale Comstock on, Delta, that's the first time I used a microphone. Like an actual, I put the flag behind me and got in this chair. No, I put the flag behind me for when I had on Mike Durant because I was like, I'm not going to not have a flag when I talk to Mike. I was like, I'm not, but it's just been like screen recording, a little better at it now. I think they are getting a little better. I found the ways to like cool my laptop. If you could see my desk right now, you can't. I must look like Ted Kaczynski's house, man.
Oh no! Never put your desk on camera because there's always something going on there 5 minutes before you start recording, and you're like, I got to move this whole project now.
Not even that, man. Just in general. I mean, wires, beeping lights. I mean, the FBI would be doing a no-knock raid in 10 hours. They'd be like, what the fuck is that motherfucker? Got a white guy with blue eyes and an American flag. He's got to be a terrorist. And, but yeah, so I haven't live streamed. So when you were like the link to the live stream, I was like, well, fuck. It's my internet sucks, man, and I'll stop beating you to the ground with me talking in a second. I got this thing last week. It's called a Jetpack. It's basically like 15 gigs of cell service. I use it for when my internet's shitty or when I have a person like yourself that I haven't talked to before. And I don't mind when I've had someone on a couple times, internet gets shitty. A little less formal, but yeah. So I'm just still trying to figure out internet. But I'll shut the fuck up because I just raped you in the ear without lube. And why don't you introduce yourself, man, to everybody listening now?
That's all right. It's video on the internet. I don't think it gets that formal, so I'm not too worried about it. I'm Don the Pleb. I run Plebeian Media. I have been running around as sort of a right-wing activist, I guess, for the past couple of months now. And I spend a lot of my time trying to get the right wing to stop arguing about things. Because if you spent more than 5 minutes amongst the political right, you have had an argument about something.
Yeah.
That's just, it is just inescapably so. And what I find with that sort of thing is that we're all like, all right, so 97.5% of the earth, 100% agreement on policy. This 2.5% though. All right, so what we're going to need to do is we're going to have a meeting, 4 or 5 different live streams about it, 67 hours of conversation. By the way, the left is over there winning while we're all arguing with each other about Medicare for all is bad, but have you considered what we should do that is not Medicare for all? Like literally anything. How's anything sound?
Anything, just fucking anything.
I mean, the bar seems so low for what is bad, and how much we all agree that it's bad and that we should not be doing whatever that is. And somehow we spend all of our time arguing about everything else. And don't get me wrong, there are a few arguments in there that are important. Like if somebody supposedly on the right came out tomorrow and was like, you know what, I really love Bernie Sanders, I'd be okay with, okay, we're not talking to that guy anymore. But basically everything else, we have the dumbest arguments on the planet, and we have them in some cases for years, right? There's stuff that the right's been arguing about since 20, 30 years before I was born. Yeah. And instead of simply going, what the left is doing is wrong, so let's stop doing that, we demand to continue having the argument.
Oh yeah, no, yeah, like the argument, like drug legalization. It's just like, dude, just fucking let it go. Just let it go. Like we're marching into the future. Just like it's one thing that's always kind of confused me is when you'd have people that are so against the government leaning into their lives. Don't tell me what guns I can own. Don't try to take my money. So quickly do a complete 180, and they're like, well, these drugs are bad for you, and it's like, fuck off. Let me decide what's bad for me.
This is one of those things that kills me, because if we cared about the facts of the situation, we'd look back at even the 30s, where, don't get me wrong, people did heroin and it had all the negative effects that it has now. It's heroin. That's not going to change. But less people did heroin, and not just like in raw numeric value, it just percentage of people, percentilely less people did heroin. And so, I mean, don't get me wrong, I don't like giving the left a win, and my pot smoking hippies is kind of a lefty thing, but at the same time, is this, at bare minimum, can we just use it as a bargaining chip, right? All right, you want pot legalized, no problem. Constitutional amendment against Medicare for all. How's that grab you?
Yeah. It's just in general, just the general, like, weed or just drugs in general. I've never understood that, like, direct contradiction of like, let me choose for myself. It's, if I want to own a bunch of guns, like, let me do that. If I want to, do this, that, and the other thing, if I want to build some ridiculous fucking porch off my house that maybe will fall over, maybe I'll die, like, all right, let me do that, fuck it, whatever.
Right.
If I want to fucking drop acid, if I want to shoot heroin, if I want to smoke some PCP, if I'm on my property, I'm not operating a vehicle and I'm not hurting anyone and I'm paying my taxes, like, fuck off. Like, let me do it. I just don't like, just in general, I just don't like anyone trying to tell me or anyone else what to do.
Well, it's basically the attempt to circumvent consequences, right? So this is when the right got into pre-crime, and it turns out pre-crime is just always bad. It doesn't matter how you do pre-crime. If you're trying to do pre-crime, you're doing it wrong.
You're in a dystopian future.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and, go back and listen to the arguments about drugs. Like, well, if you do a lot of cocaine, that means you're going to steal things. Like, well, yeah, stealing is wrong. Fine. But how many people do cocaine that don't steal? Yeah. And, that number doesn't exist, right? No one was documenting how many people were doing cocaine and not stealing because it wasn't a problem.
Yeah.
And so, look, I'm not here to advocate you do a bunch of coke, but hey, look, if you're driving a semi truck and you're falling asleep and your life depends on getting that load that you're trucking across the country there, I'm betting you're willing to do a line of coke to make sure that your rent gets paid, food's on your table, and I really don't care about this. On the other hand, by the way, if companies want to go, we're not hiring pot smokers, then good for them.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, I don't have any problem with, like, any of that. I just like the one argument is always, well, if we let one argument is like, if we let people smoke weed, like, what rules are we going to have against, like, being high in public? Like, what if you come to work high? I'm like, well, what do you do when someone comes to work drunk?
Yeah, right. This seems pretty spelled out already.
You fire them. Well, and then you bring up the question, so what do you do when someone comes to work high? You fire them. And then, well, how do I know if they're high or not? Well, dude, if you don't know whether or not they're high, and that means they're holding it together and doing their job, at which case, fuck off. Like,
right. This is the same thing as the zero tolerance for having beer at lunch kind of thing, which always has driven me nuts. There's never been a time in my life, post turning 21, we'll say, because of legal reasons, but there's never been a time in my life where I couldn't go to lunch, have a beer, and come back and work a totally normal day. God forbid your employer finds out you're doing that, though.
Yeah. Well, not only that, dude. Have you ever heard of the Ballmer curve? Ballmer?
I don't think so. Hit me with it.
Who's Steve Ballmer? He's Microsoft, right? Co-founder of Microsoft, one of the co-founders of Microsoft. Who probably, allegedly, who probably did a lot of coke. But I've seen the videos of him. Developers! But, that guy's a multi-billionaire. But he discovered something called the Ballmer curve. And he found that when his coders, it had, like, something like 1.16 beers. It's something insane that, of course, they figured out. It shows their productivity and their air, and it goes, and it goes straight through the roof. But if you go any past that, it falls right back down, and then it very quickly starts to plummet. But in that little turn, apparently you become a coding genius. It's called the Ballmer curve, and it's just
interesting,
right there. I mean, staying there.
It makes perfect sense, right? Because this is the kind of thing where can you go to work, sit down and relax, and then come back to work? You can't get hammered, because if you go out to lunch, you get hammered, and you come back, then you're completely worthless, and
Yeah.
you're just rolling your face across the keyboard.
Yeah.
But and this is the problem, is we can't do anything in that sense anymore. You can't, if you can drink at lunch, then everyone's going to have 71 shots. Like, man, I can't even afford to have 71 shots every day at lunch.
Like what the fuck? If we make heroin legal, everyone's going to shoot up every day. Dog, I'll argue for the legalization of it. I'll never do it in my life. I'll do it like on my deathbed, terminal cancer. Like, yeah, send me out on like a cloud. I don't want to do it. I've never done coke. I'm 30 years old. I've never done coke. Nor do I want to. But dude, if you're driving that truck, or not even, it doesn't even need to be justified as like a getting your money thing. If you're just fucking drinking at home and you're at your own house, you're an adult, you're not hurting anyone, you want to fucking rail a line and turn on some like AC/DC, like, more power to you. Like, what do we do when he goes off his property high? Well, what do you do when someone goes out and drunk in public? All right, charge him the same. We have the same laws.
It seems like the drunk driving laws, or carrying a gun while intoxicated laws. It seems like we've done this before.
Just replace drunk with whatever, just under the influence in general. Just blanket change it to under the influence. And then not only that, fucking tax that shit. And god damn it, not only will you save, I'm just going to pull a number out of it. At least I would imagine, probably, because we spent $1 trillion so far on the war on drugs. So, I can argue that it's probably at least $10 billion a year. Not only would you not be spending $10 billion a year just on DEA agents, but you could be making God knows how many billions a year. And not only that, how many people are not going to be in jail for some stupid ass fucking possession law that could be working and, contributing to the tax pool, could be contributing to an economy, not be absent in their child's life. Like, just to me, it seems like it's not even, it's not even this, like, as much as it is to me, like a moral, like, argument. It's also just seems like basic numbers. Like, run the country like a company. Have less people in time out. Right?
The basic numbers argument is I don't know how else to say this, somewhat surface level, right? So this is a thing that does drive me nuts about it. I mean, if you want to get deep into data kind of things, what you find out very quickly is that a lot of the marijuana charges, right? Because this is, for those that are really big pro legalization, this is a number they hit all the time, right? There's 87 quadrillion people in jail just for pot. Like
100 trillion a day.
Exactly. And so that is, I mean, facially true in the sense that is what they were charged for, what they were convicted for, and what is on their record.
Yeah.
That is true, right? They are there because they had a joint. On the other hand, if you are a cop and you are listening to he said, she said, and somebody has a bruise, and the person who doesn't have a bruise has a joint, you're looking at 5 years for assault or 5 years for the joint, and the existence of the joint means you're guilty.
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong, that doesn't mean that, we shouldn't do, something with drug legalization. It just does mean that the people who are non-violent offenders, not even regularly are non-violent offenders. There's, there are people who've done a bunch of work and digging and studies and what have you into this, none of which do I really care about that much, because that just gets into arguing over studies.
Yeah.
But the reality of this is, if what we were going to do is go, okay, so, drugs are legal. We should have amended the Constitution if we wanted to make them illegal. We knew this with Prohibition. So, okay, those laws are, unconstitutional, unjust. We shouldn't have them. Cool. On the other hand, we're about to release a lot of violent people out of prison. And we're going to do it because we incentivize both cops and prosecutors to say, well, I realize that, Timmy over here punched you in the mouth, but we can either have a 3-year trial where maybe we get him on punching you in the mouth because there's no witness, no video, no nothing, or I just go, well, there's a joint right there, and he goes to jail for the same amount of time, and it's a mandatory minimum, so it's not like 2 to 5 or 3 to 5, it's just 5.
Yeah.
And victims, prosecutors, and cops all took one look at that and went, hit him for the joint.
Yeah. No, I mean, I get, as bad as it all is, like, I get where it happened, like, I get 9/11. Like, I don't agree with it. I think it's justified, but like, it's like, I get Hitler. He was a terrible person, but he was also an incel. He was a World War I vet. He fucking hated everyone, blamed everyone for all of his problems. And so he massacred an entire race. I don't justify it. I don't agree with it, but I get 9/11. Yeah, take down the great state in America. I don't agree with it, but I get it. I get I get the logic behind the drug war. I mean, Nixon wanted to use it so he could prosecute political opponents, but
Well,
you
there's
didn't
that.
say get them for being hippies or get them for being black, but instead you go, they all happen to smoke a lot of pot. Reefer madness. It's just, well, no, that was in like the 20s, but
Well, that it was referenced anyway.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
but I mean, this is the thing that the problem is we consistently want to again do the pre-crime thing because to be fair, I reference stealing and assault numbers and these sorts of things, and they are relevant, but the answer to that is, well, if you hit somebody, then go to jail, right? If you steal something, then go to jail. But the other thing about this is, and I know every pot smoking advocate on the planet will be pissed off at me, but look, if you get high, eat Cheetos, and don't get off the couch and stop watching, whatever the hell garbage pothead movie there is out there today, you are being unproductive during that time.
yeah.
And it's not an inaccurate argument. It's just also not something that any government should be telling me about,
No,
right?
yeah.
I mean,
If
you
you
want
want
to post
to,
a
yeah,
flyer about it, then
yeah.
go ahead, but
If you want
that's
to be
it.
lazy, yeah. If you want to be lazy, knock your socks off, man. I have friends. I won't even get you any details onto them who are at this moment successful surgeons, who are brilliant, accomplished individuals, lawyers. They fucking smoked pot every day in college. They're fine. They just knew when to turn it on, when to turn it off. They knew when
And
it was time to relax and when it was time to work.
that's an equally relevant thing, right? So one of the things that you see a lot with alcohol is that, God forbid you turn on a college movie and watch the people who were, in dorms react to it. They're like, yeah, man, I swear to God, they're not drinking enough booze, but otherwise it's exactly like that.
Yeah.
Like, well, somehow or another you managed to get through college being drunk 21 hours a day, except when you
Yeah.
need to take a test and or be in class. So you learn to, you have your giant peak of you drink too much and you're an idiot. And then you sort of taper that down over time and you learn how to deal with that sort of thing, which is a thing that when something is illegal, you don't do. Right. Because there's no, if you do, I don't a whole 8-ball of Coke in an afternoon, which I'm sure someone will tell me will kill you, but I've known people and they could do an 8-ball of Coke in the afternoon. And some of these people, you find them later in life and they're completely destroyed individually. They are not people anymore. I get the, look, this really does destroy some people. And the rest of them are like, yeah, so I was just basically quit doing Coke because, like, I don't know,
Yeah.
other stuff to do.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, dude, look at the amount of alcohol I drank before I was 18 and how stupid I was versus the alcohol after 21. I mean, dude, while in college, I didn't even know what the statute of limitations are. But like, dude, I mean, like, second year of college, living in a frat house, dude, I mean, like, almost went to jail. Like, no hyperbole. Like, almost went to jail, but was lucky to kind of play it off. All from alcohol. Man, 2 years later, I got in a medical school in Miami when 15,000 people applied, 150 got in. Like, I was up there interviewing with like Harvard and Yale kids. So like, you can turn it off. Anyone with a brain is going to turn it off. And the person that didn't know how to turn off the Coke or the alcohol, if you take that away, then they're just not going to know how to turn off aspirin or Burger King. Those are people that are just fucked from the outset. They're going to choke on a rubber ducky. Like, let them go. Let them go.
This is the thing: is you can't stop people from being stupid. It's not a doable thing. If we could stop people from being stupid, I think politics would be over in its entirety, and two, at least as importantly, you wouldn't need anti-drug laws, you wouldn't need drunk driving laws. You would still have people having a literal road beer where they take a 6-pack of beer with them and they set it in the passenger seat, and if you have a 6-pack of freaking Coors Light and you're driving 200 miles and over the course of the 200 miles you drink 3 of them, you're not drunk driving, and everybody in the world knew that in 1965.
Yeah it's but there's just like it kind of all comes down to does Big Brother tell us what's that was my water bottle, something just cracked. I was like, the fuck. It's a shout out NSA. I always say that, man, whenever I have on like guests of like any relation to anything, somewhat even eyebrow raising, something always happens with the internet. The screen blinks. Yeah, whenever
your FBI agent is watching too closely.
Yeah, no, I hope he's a big fan. My FBI agent. I think I have an NSA agent. I hope so. I don't know I don't know what his name is, but shout out, guys. I know you're watching. But
we're here for you.
Yeah, I had on a guy who was coming on again Thursday, but a former EOD technician. He worked in the Secret Service as well. But he was on here, and we were just talking about bombs and shit, you know. And he was like, "Yeah, man, you can just go to Home Depot." And I was like, "Oh,
stop talking."
No, I don't give a fuck. But I was like, "Oh, we're just doing this. We're going in." And he's like, "I'm not going to tell you like what you had." He's like, "I'll tell you like some of the stuff I had to buy, but not in the proportions. Not what you need to do." As he was saying it, I mean, like the internet cut out like 4 times.
Mm-hmm.
But it happens every once in a while. I have on the Delta Force guys, and they'll be like, "Man, I didn't work for the CIA. I don't know who those guys are, but I did work for OGA." And in the screen, it's just like, "What's up, Langley? Shout out."
Right. We know you're watching.
Yeah, I like to think that there's some guys in a bunker somewhere just like salute, but then I realize I don't give a fuck. But I don't know where I was going with that, but I have no idea where I was going with that, but fuck, I don't know. Shout out internet.
Nanny government.
But nanny government, yeah. Good looking. Nanny government, yeah. And it all comes down to, I mean, whether it's can you own a BB gun or own a fucking 50 cal, and can I buy cigarettes versus can I smoke PCP on my own property? It all comes down to, are we okay with making our own decisions, or do we need nanny making the decisions? And ultimately, what that is it's the same argument. It's just one kicks the can down the road. Can I make my own decisions for my own personal health? So can I, a human with a brain, allegedly, make my own decisions? No, nanny government needs to. What is the nanny government? It's a dude with a brain, allegedly, that's making a decision. So we're just, it's like gun control. Gun control isn't gun control. You just want less people with guns.
Well,
right?
it's this is the thing that's going to get us to, and you already start to see it, right? Some of this happened during the Obama administration, where what you'd get is the government would tell you what was acceptable to eat, and that was supposedly too stupid of a thing to suggest when I was a kid. Oh, just because they have a food pyramid doesn't mean they'll tell you what you can and can't eat. Except that now you've got like AOC out there, like, we'll get rid of the cows. Like, that kind of ends the steak discussion, doesn't it?
Yeah. It's yeah. And aren't they finding that? Actually, no, I can't back that up with facts, so I'll just shut the fuck up. But I don't know, man. It's just gonna go completely out of left field. Do you think that I was talking about this the other day with a guy from NASA. Do you think, and I'm asking you because I know you don't know the answer, and me with a biology degree certainly doesn't know the answer, so it's just gonna be two morons speculating wildly.
Perfect.
Yeah, fuck yeah. I mean, what the fuck else is going on in this world? Hey, at least we're admitting we're morons speculating wildly.
I wear a hat that says pleb. I'm square.
Yeah, dude. My fucking toe's gonna tear in it, and I got my socks don't match. Whatever, dude. Fuck it, do it live. It's Do you think going to Mars? Do you think that would be an equivalent kind of rallying cry? And my logic is this. Not just go to Mars, because you could always argue, well, that money should be spent here on Earth, but then there's trickle-down technology. They say without the space race and the Cold War, right now in 2020, without that, we'd be at roughly the equivalent of 2000 technology. So, like, iPod scroll wheel is still 5 years away.
Yeah.
But I look at, like, what happened in, like, the 60s and 70s, and it's like, really think about, like, when that happened. JFK made that speech in, 61? 16 years after we dropped 2 atomic bombs on the sovereign nation of Japan. Okay, all right.
Yeah.
He made that speech. So we're going to do it by the end of this decade, do the other things, not because it is easy, but because it is hard. A year later, us and the Soviet Union almost lit it off with the Cuban Missile Crisis, right? 13 days of that shit. And then a year later after that, at the height of it all, the sitting president had his head blown off. And then 6 years later, we still went. Like,
That's true.
Is there not something like brilliant about that? That's just like, we got to fucking do it. Yeah, it's arbitrary. We're going to the moon. Sure, we're going to bankrupt the Soviets. But I mean, sometimes you do just need that goal just to, you ever try to like beat your estimated time on a GPS? Why? Just because fucking let's do it. Just be a better person. You know,
Right.
trying to bring in all the groceries at once. Why? Because you gotta evolve.
Because real men do it in one trip.
Because,
Obviously.
honey, stop yelling at me. Real. I had an idea, man. That's how we know That's how we know we're gonna have AI. If you can't tell, there's no structure to this podcast. It's just fucking. It's just
go.
Just talk until you pass out. I was thinking like the structure to AI, or we'll know that we've passed the Turing test when we create like a DARPA robot, right? Like those Boston Dynamics dogs, and it scans all the groceries in the car, sees that it clearly can't lift all of it, but it still goes for it. That's when we know we'll have created equivalent to human brain. We'll be like, it looked at it and said we can't do it, and it still went for it.
We're doing it anyway.
Get it, boys. We're in the future now.
that actually probably is a better Turing test than any of the like. Can you talk to it for 15 minutes? Like, is it going to do something ridiculous that it knows it can't do?
It all doesn't have enough power. Clearly can't grab all the bags, but it's good. Right. It looks at the door to the house, looks at it again. Fuck it, grabs it all, tears its pinky, drops something halfway along the way.
Exactly.
Runs through, drops it all in the kitchen.
Yeah. Dragging across the ground a little because it can't carry that much weight.
Taking the corn with your feet, closes the van door with your nose, and it's just like, we made it, guys.
You're right. That will be the moment that we have legit AI.
Today brings in the groceries. Tomorrow, the stars.
To the Mars question originally, though, can we have such an overarching goal that it supersedes the ridiculous things we're doing? Because that's really the question.
That's
right?
What I'm hoping is. I think it will pull us through.
And I think the problem with that is that we no longer agree on what a particularly amazing goal would be, right? Okay. So with the space race in the 60s, you could, we're going to bankrupt the Soviet Union. Okay, so for all the people who don't care about going to the moon and are just like, whatever, at least they've got bankrupt the Soviet Union. For all the people who are like techno nerds, are like, oh my God, we're going to the moon, yes! And then, all the space junkies out there who were like, previously staring through, a telescope and looking for a planet that's never been discovered. They're like, oh my God, humanity's, there are a lot of pieces that came together there that made it such a super majority of people thought it was worthwhile that it, okay, this is kind of non-political because we can all buy into it for something. And I don't think going to Mars is going to get that for us. Because certainly there's no enemy to argue that we're going to beat to Mars. Like, China's going to go to Mars. Well, half the country thinks China's great. That's not going to work.
Yeah, I thought that's a good point. And I don't think they're dumb enough to bankrupt themselves. I think Russia they were right there with the dick measuring contest, and I think they were like, we got to go too. We're like, we're going to Mars. I think China would be like, okay.
Well, I will say that the Space Marines thing kind of makes it so that they might, because that was the shtick with the Soviet Union, is that they were like, oh, wait a minute, the Americans are going to weaponize space, and then we're screwed. Right?
That's true. Okay, well, let's see if we could twist this into a defense thing. We start setting up like New England, and we start setting up like New America. We call it like the 51st state. But where's that really? I remember seeing
Mars.
I forget who said it. It said Mars colonization is the ultimate national security plan because it is the external hard drive.
Seriously, what are you going to do? Nuke a planet out of the galaxy? Come on.
Even if you fired a nuke, cool. We're going to see it for 9 months. Coming.
Right.
No, fuck off. So
a guy out there with a spaceship just pushing it to the side a little bit with his finger.
Really, you wouldn't even need that, dude. One of the plans originally to shoot asteroids was we go and we just paint it with a super reflective paint, like white, and over a long enough distance because there's no other forces acting on it. Well, relatively, it's
right.
Almost nothing, right? There's no such thing, no gravity. But even the sun, just the sun shining on it, will actually push it.
So it's the wind sail idea as applied to an asteroid. Yeah. And I mean, they're big enough that you quite literally just shoot a giant paintball at it and you get a wind sail. Which, by the way, I want to fire that paintball gun. Yeah. Like, I'm not even a giant paintball fan, but if we are going to shoot some sort of, I don't know, small planet-sized paintball, I'm in. Let's go.
The AI, the Turing AI will help us. It'll be like, we'll be like, what should we do about the asteroid? I'll be like, paintball. We'll be like, yeah, it's but yeah, if you could paint it as a national security thing, yeah, it's the other argument, and I've talked about this with actual guys who studied fusion at Oxford, PhD guys who are light years smarter than me. One of them explained it this way to me. I can never remember units for power, like gigawatts but he said just call it X unit of power. At a coal power fire plant, you would need 80 train cars full of coal every 24 hours for 1 year to get, we're just going to call that unit, we're going to call that unit X. The same for a nuclear power plant like we have today, fission reactors. You need half a train car. So instead of 80 every 24 hours for 365 days out of the year, you need half a train car of uranium unenriched once for 365 days. For a fusion plant, you would need 1 milliliter of seawater, and you wouldn't need to replenish it next year or the year after or the year after until the sun burns out. That being said, so there's something called ITER, ITER. It's kind of like the international. It's like an international Manhattan Project, if you will. Like we're all trying to figure out fusion, and the only like first world nation that's not contributing is China, and the only country who's building their own is China. So right now we're all, but that's the end game, because if you can get a milliliter of seawater and you can power, if you use a swimming pool, you could power the United States, where you can just have the air conditioner on with the windows open in the middle of summer.
Right. End of global warming, because we're literally just turning on a giant air conditioner.
You could, or fuck it, whatever. Yeah, what's one way to deal with global warming? We need to suck all the CO2 out of the atmosphere. All right, build the machines and have them run around the clock on this fucking fusion reactor. I wonder if we could put our minds to that.
That's man. We shouldn't transition to global warming. We should stay with fusion. It is a less obnoxious topic. Never mind. Yeah. Carrying on.
Yeah.
Yes, and I think if we still thought that was cool as a country, that would help, right? Because that's, we spent a lot of time with nukes, and then we decided we hated nukes because it shares the name with a bomb and not much else.
I'm sorry, I fucking hate. We have nuclear power plants around the nation. Those are just waiting to go off.
What are they waiting for? A written invitation?
Exactly. Excuse me. That's like saying there's a bunch of coyotes out in New Mexico and being like, they're gonna start setting off TNT. Like Roadrunner and Coyote. Like, no, you moron.
There's no way around it, man. Soon they're going to be blowing up train entrances and rerouting roads by just picking them up and moving them. There's no way around it.
They're going to be running off cliffs and just running in midair and not paying attention to any laws of gravity. We got to stop. Sorry for interrupting you. Yeah. So
exactly.
Those room temperature IQ math breathing morons. They're going to go up at any moment. Yeah,
so there is a more than one, but one in particular that is getting a somewhat world famous every now and again when the nuclear thing comes up. There's a city in California called Davis that has signs at like every entrance that says a nuclear free zone. And they have them to this day. Oh. So that means anything.
What does that even, but what do you mean nuclear free? Like, is that the equivalent of like, this is a gun-free zone?
Yeah.
Okay, who's going to stop me bringing in my nuke? Or do you mean nuclear-free like there's no nucleus? And like
no. So no nuclear power, no nuclear bombs, no.
What about no nuclear forces? Because there's 4 forces in the universe: electrostatic, gravitational. That could be wrong. Gravitational, strong nuclear, and weak nuclear. 50% of literally everything is nuclear.
Well, you got to understand, they got a sign there.
Oh. Right, you said that. It must have. Oh, okay.
Right. All makes sense now.
It's just a void of collapsed, like quantum potential and waveforms and voids. There's nothing in there. They put up a sign. It's fucking,
Well, I mean, if you've been to Davis, that might not be an inaccurate description.
Einstein's like, I got to figure it out. We just make a sign that says E equals MC squared. How'd you figure it out? I just said. I wrote it down.
You know what? I just put a 3 on the end, and we called it a day.
Just called it. how do we actually build the nuke? Apparently Oppenheimer just said, have it on my desk by the morning. Just said, hey, I gotta have a nuke. Just he wrote Japanese free, and we just sign over Hiroshima, and we just said, get out of here.
He just built like a little platform with a sign that said "Put nuke here," and that was it. It was there.
But that's the biggest secret of all time, is we found out like the true like New Age manifestation like actually works. We can't let anybody know that. So it's like that is what it's at the core of like NORAD, Area 51. Is the reality and it's all window dressing. It's it's armed guards. It's got billions of dollars in fundings, but in reality they go in there. It's just like your Christmas list. It's like stealth fighter, 10,000-mile range.
Oh yeah. Well, so they put the sign up to get the Raptor, right? The F-22 Raptor. The problem is they misspelled Raptor. That's why it didn't work for so long. And now that they have corrected the spelling, they're slowly doing it on the sign. Oh. That's why we're getting it to be marginally more functional than it used to be. That's the problem.
It's that simple. It's that fucking simple. And you already notice how all those planes are black. It's because they called it a black program. So if they just said green, they'd be green. But you know what? It's that simple.
That's it. Right. When they made the stealth fighter, they quite literally they had a fighter jet sign, and it was just someone just screwing around, just wrote stealth on top. That's how we got it.
It fucking happened. No, someone accidentally erased it, and that's why.
Had that like wiped out erasing pencil, still said fighter, but you could barely read it.
So the machine was just like, there you go.
The replicator was just like, that must have been what you wanted.
That's what you wanted, yeah. Whoever's listening to this is probably tuned out by now, but
right. What the hell are these two idiots talking about?
Yeah, a very jealous LBJ got a hold of it, and the rest is it. But
yes.
So back to my argument for why we need Coke legal, so that these conversations happen between every human on Earth. There was a blank sheet, and we need fusion to beat the Chinese. But
see, not only could this conversation happen between any two people on Earth, but it would happen much faster.
It would happen nonstop. It always end. I don't know. It either end with fucking each other or killing each other. I don't think it. Probably. Yeah, but. I've
Distance is good.
I've thought about that with fusion though, because it always kind of seems a little kind of weird that like that article came out a couple months ago in New York Times. The U.S. government has recovered craft not of this world.
Yeah,
it just kind of floated under the radar. Like I felt like I was in the Matrix. I was like, what?
So. I forget what was happening in politics at the time, but it was way more than that, right? So I think the CIA openly published all of their pro UFO, pro non-earthly crafts that they had found, and just thousands and thousands of pages of notes, and I was like, man, this has got to be a giant news cycle, and just nobody noticed. There were like 15 people who were like, oh my God, Don, did you see this? And then everyone else was like, Orange Man is bad, and so we should pay attention to that.
I get it. We have 0-point gravity-driven craft that bend physics and time out and backwards, and we could definitely usher in a new technological Garden of Eden. But Trump has little hands. Right? My friend Trey came on, who's a fucking math professor out in Hawaii. He's a genius. Remember, he came on. He was like, am I going crazy? Tommy, am I going crazy? I've known him since high school. He's like, am I going crazy, dude? Is there aliens or not? I know, dude. I know.
Apparently so.
But I do kind of feel like we really want to strap on our tinfoil hats. Is like, it does kind of seem like it is easing itself a little more into like public consciousness, right? Bob Lazar going on to Rogan, Commander Fravor of the Navy, doing multiple podcasts on the news talking about I fucking chased like a hypersonic Tic Tac. I don't know what to tell you, right?
It was just there. I don't know.
Do you think? And I've made this argument before because I'm a moron. Do you think that 2020 is almost a way of like 2020 was foreplay? This is the argument. This is the argument I've used. Bear with me. I worked at bars a lot in college, and I had friends who could just seemingly pull ass so far out of their league. But it would never happen. It's not in class. It's no cold approach. But it's after they've been drinking, game day, UGA, they're talking, they're funny, cool guys. And by the end of the night, it's like they've had this like slow, kind of working all night, and finally a girl way out of their league is like hanging off them by the end of the night, and it's like, how the fuck did that happen? But you see it happening, you're like, all right, kind of gave him a chance, let him get his foot in the door. Is 2020 any other year before this? It's like me, right? 30 years old, live above my parents' garage. It's like me going up to a cute girl and they're like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, get away from me. 2020, because that's what UFOs are, right? UFOs are just coming to, you know, fucking extraterrestrial life, shattering the paradigm of humanity, all religion out the window, technological potential beyond your wildest dreams. It's almost like we couldn't handle that. 2020 is like, fuck it, we'll kill Kobe, all right? And then it's like, all right, COVID, all right, working with that. And then it's like crazy forest fires, like murder hornets, the debates, social distancing, riots. It's almost like it's just like, you know, grabbing the dick through the jeans, and it's like rubbing you, getting you hard, and finally UFOs are like, what on, baby? That's the 2 a.m. You want to get out of here? UFOs are like,
see, if that's the case, though, then we seem to have blown our load kind of early, because that happened in like what, March?
Yeah, you're right. I mean, you're right. Maybe
you know that was. That's like you walked in, ordered the first drink, and all of a sudden everyone in the bar is on you.
Or maybe it was tactical. Maybe it just slipped it in there. It was just, you know, just see.
That's it. She's stalking us from across the bar right now.
Yeah.
And, you know, like putting out that UFOs were real. That was us noticing her at the beginning of the night.
That was the eye contact.
Mm-hmm.
More than once, so it wasn't an accident. That was the UFO. Right? Balbazar and Rogan, Commander Fravor. And it's not getting pulled down by Men in Black. It's like.
You know what's funny about this is that there's a book by Arthur C. Clarke about this. It's called Childhood's End.
Really?
It is quite literally.
UFOs or foreplay?
Well, both. It's aliens visit the Earth, and then humans are too dumb to understand what they're trying to get across, and so they kind of just disappear. And then they show up and they say, hey, we're here to help you out, but we can't show ourselves to you. Okay. You know, we'll just tell you stuff. You know, so you have this cancer thing, like this is how you fix that. Okay. And so this goes on for like multiple generations, and then finally they're like, okay, the aliens are like, all right, fine, we think you could handle it now. And they step out, and the alien is just the physical embodiment of the devil out of the Bible. And so they talk to the alien about this, and they're like, so like, this is kind of important. You want to explain this? And the alien is like, well, we came to Earth about, 2,000 years ago, and you guys like really didn't like what we had to say.
Did not want us here.
So, there was this book, and you guys spent a lot of time thinking that, if you looked like me, it was kind of a problem.
Bad, yeah.
So we figured we just wouldn't show ourselves to you for a while.
Yeah. That's like Bill Hicks' bit about like, he's like, Jesus is going to come back here. He's going to see everywhere he looks. He's going to see at least there's going to be 1 billion humans. So 1 out of every 7 humans is going to have a necklace with the worst day of his life at the end of it, him nailed to a cross. And he's going to come down and go, Dad, I'm not I'm getting the fuck out of here. You think he wants to see that shit? He's like,
have you considered that these people are dicks?
He's like, these people are assholes. This is the worst day of my life. And they're just carrying her and going to big buildings, and there they are. And everyone comes in and sits in pews, and they just every Sunday they go and look at this thing. Like, fuck these people, dude. But I remember there was like one like analogy I heard. It was like, we assume that they have aliens like have it all figured out, right? If you could do faster than light travel, you've probably transcended biology. That's an outdated idea to them. They've uploaded into the cloud. They can fucking move with wormholes, whatever. And we're like, so they must be these enlightened, like technocratic Buddhas, right? Space Buddhas, technocratic space Buddhas. I think that's a phrase that's never been said before.
Let's go with it.
Let's go with it. Technocratic space Buddhas. That's going to be the title of this episode. Just throw everyone for a fucking loop. Whoever made it to 44 minutes and 9 seconds.
You get to understand why.
You're initiated. Welcome to the gate. I've opened the gate. Welcome in. But we assume that they have it all figured out. I know I do. But then, like, it might have been Michio Kaku. He was like, what if you could go back to, like, 1307 AD and showed them like not even just you show them your phone. What is a phone? It has a screen. You don't even have cameras. We can talk live, and we have antibiotics, and we have shoes with arches, and we have fucking cars that they drive around, and they drive on slick oil from the ground, and we have paved roads and all this shit. And they're going, "Oh my God, you guys must live in a utopia."
Right.
We're like,
actually,
like,
kind of, it's
you
not,
guys don't
it's
kill
not
each
as
other
cracked up
anymore.
to be.
Like, you guys don't kill each other anymore. Actually, we use all this technology. Actually, the best of our technology, it's the very pinnacle, actually, is what we use to kill each other. And that stays classified for 20 years. So it's 20 years ahead. The best screens are on these things called stealth. You can fly like angels. Yeah, what do you do from up there?
Bomb things.
Carpet bomb. Dresden. I don't know.
Well, that's to the cell phone point. That the first Star Trek, the communicator was a little wristband that had a screen on it that you could talk to somebody on. It's about a half step away from the Apple Watch. Sure. So I mean, you don't have to go back to 1300 anything. You can go back 50 years, and we haven't figured out. You guys really have communicators? Like, well, yeah, basically.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's always just like, oh, like, and you're not any different. But could it also be argued that we are getting there, though, right? Because isn't it, despite what the news tells us, isn't every year by percentage the most peaceful year? And it has been that way since, actually, I think it's Richard Rhodes, author of The Making of the Atomic Bomb. I think it's his argument that it's, if you look at like a logarithmic scale of like gross deaths as well as percentage from warfare and violence, it's been going down since August 9th, 1945. It's been going, despite Vietnam, Korea, it's been going down.
Well, it turns out that we now, if you go back to even the 19th century, right, war was a pretty regular thing. It's just what happened. And now, if we have a war, everybody in the world knows about it. Everybody knows what's going on. We're monitoring each death, injury. There's a thing I probably get in some trouble for saying, but I'm going to say it anyway, which is to say that, I'm not saying that the number of people who died in the Middle Eastern wars currently is a good thing or anything like that. But you see people get up on the news and they're like, over the past nearly 20 years, 7,500 people have died in the Middle East. And I'm like, bro, 20,000 Marines died sieging Iwo Jima.
Yeah.
One battle.
It is, and like I have friends that that served in Iraq and Afghanistan. I've had on Delta, so I don't. To me, it's no disrespect to anything. My uncle is in Vietnam. My great uncle was on Normandy. My great uncle died on the Western Front. Actually, way back. Actually, my family, people from my family actually fought for the Union Army in the Civil War. And so actually, I'd like my reparations, just as a side note. All my friends that I lived in Atlanta with, your people did hurt my people. So write me that check, please.
Anytime.
Then when you see the insanity in my argument asking for it, you'll see the insanity in all that question. But let's not go into there.
Here's to hoping.
Point being is, and it's not to make light of any of that, but just to look at it on a macro scale. You're right. I mean, you listen to any documentary about anything, Iwo Jima, Guadalcanal, Battle of the Bulge, Normandy, any of this shit, and it's just like, oh shit. I mean, World War I. Have you ever listened to Blueprints for Armageddon by Dan Carlin?
No, I probably should.
Dude,
I've heard his name a lot of times. So
I had heard it like 100 times on Rogan over the years. I stopped listening to Rogan in like 2016. I'm such a fucking hipster. I can't help not saying this. Apparently, because I want some sort of credit for myself because I'm a fucking loser. I started listening to Rogan in like late 2010, 2011. And I was like, this guy's awesome. So now I'm always like, well, I was listening to him before everyone else. And I'm like, what is that? I'm like, that's what I have? I have nothing else to hang my hat on? Like, why don't you show your other accomplishments instead? I'm like, let me tell you about a podcast that it's
I was cool before you even knew what cool was.
Someone's like, well, I was listening in 2009. I'm like, all right, hipster, fucking, but fucking piece of shit. And then someone else was like, I started listening a year ago. I'm like, let me tell you about the original Rogans. As if it has anything to do with me. Point being is I'd always heard him talking about Dan Carlin, the hardcore historian. And I was always like, but you know, I like Cold War history. I like World War II, but I really like 1945 and 1990. I just fucking I love that area of history. And like I saw that he did stuff about like, you know, like ancient shit, and like I was like, I don't really care about that. And I never cared about World War I either. But I finally, after hearing enough people talk about it, I was like, fuck it, I'm just gonna give it a shot. It's like 6 episodes, 4 hours each. Oh my fucking god. I've probably listened to like 200 different audiobooks. I love audiobooks.
They are convenient.
They are amazing. His Blueprints for Armageddon, I shit you not, is better than any audiobook I've ever listened to.
Really?
And it's better than any documentary I've ever watched. Better than nonfiction. I mean, it is the best. It is like my jaw was on the ground. Like it changed the way I looked at like my life in general. And one of the things is like on the first day, and he iterates it the same way that like you did. He doesn't just say it as a number. He'll repeat it like 5 times. He'll be like, on the first day of battle, it'll be like 400,000 dead.
Yeah.
400,000 dead. He'll just go, he'll just say it 10 times.
Can you even imagine? I mean, you know, it's, I don't know exactly the number anymore. We're probably approaching 8,000 at this point, people who've died in two-fronted Middle Eastern war that has taken 20 years. Yeah. Now, again, not good, not trying to, you know.
No, not at all.
Besmirch that in any way, shape, or form. But can you imagine if we had the island hopping campaign, where basically any time that they set foot anywhere, at least 5,000 people were guaranteed to die over the span of like maybe a week?
Yeah.
It just, we would never tolerate it. And, you know, as much as, and to the earlier point that, you know, the news is just sort of hyperinflating this. I mean, that's a fact. If there is a shootout in which 50 rounds are exchanged in one of the most dangerous places in the world, it's every headline across the globe. Oh my God, there was a small shooting battle in Somalia. Like, well, I don't know if you know this, but that happens a lot. Yeah. Like, it's not the end of the world. And so, I mean, this goes along with a lot of other things, right? You know, we did the stranger danger thing back in the 90s. The people who developed the saying stranger danger lived in an orders of magnitude more dangerous world than we do. Yeah. You know, the likelihood that your kids were going to get kidnapped at the time that those people were working on becoming the people who were going to develop the term stranger danger, I mean, it was, don't get me wrong, still a minority possibility, but orders of magnitude more likely than now. Yeah. And so, you know, we get more panicked about smaller and smaller things as time goes on. And, you know, there's all this gun violence. I'm like, okay, school shootings aren't good. I gotcha. You know, all the inner city street violence it's bad. I'm sold. Do you realize that if you lived in Los Angeles during the time that these gun control arguments were being developed, like, you'd probably be dead right now. It just, I mean, and you probably would be dead from a bullet.
Yeah. Just not even in a battle. You just a general stray bullet. It's just
exactly. You know, somebody will be like, "Oh, Don, but that happened in Chicago. You know, the 5-year-old girl that was shot in the head sitting in her own bed." Like, yeah, I get that. I'm not saying these things are good or that we should overlook them, but the simple reality here is that used to happen a lot more.
Yeah, and I can definitely, and that argument doesn't mean that it's like not a bad thing, right? I mean, it's
right.
Death is a death. You know, if your wife or son or brother's killed in a
right
some drive-by and someone's going, listen, man, they're not that bad, and you're sitting there going,
no, that person's an asshole.
That person's like, fuck you. Like, one way I was thinking of it, so in 2014, I was 23 at the time. I lost my oldest brother to suicide, and I often think like that was a suicide, but I often try to put it in perspective of like, what if that was a car accident? What if, let's just take the death, right? And mourning a death. Granted, there's a whole other dimension to it when it's suicide. It's like, wow, self-inflicted, not wasn't cancer, right? But if we could just, I don't know if I can, but if I can just separate that just from a passing of a loved one who was 27 at the time. I try to think of that, of like, what if that was like, yeah, gang violence and he was shot. And if I saw two guys on a podcast going, it's not that bad, I would be
Well,
like, I'm going to fucking hunt you down and skin your dog to tell you that it's not that bad. Cause it's right. So it's easy. I just want to put that out there. So it's
yeah,
not,
no,
I'm not belittling it.
So it's not lessening the tragedy of any given one of these, right? But in more of a like, how do you live your life kind of way, right?
Sure.
So we sell bulletproof backpacks as a society.
Yeah.
It's not a joke. We do, and this idea that we need bulletproof backpacks. Nah, you probably don't. And look, how many? Yes. School shooting is a tragedy, and if you were watching this and one of your children died in a school shooting, I have no idea how to even connect with how painful that must have been.
Yeah.
On the other hand, a few dozen million children went to school that day, and there wasn't a school shooting, right? The statistics on this are not that, I mean, you are more likely to get into a car accident. You're more likely to die of eating too many cheeseburgers.
Yeah.
I'm there with you if you are, and on and on and on. And so it's not that, these things aren't bad. It's not that they're small tragedies, because I'm 100% certain they're life-shattering tragedies. However, if you are the kind of person who is going outside with a bulletproof vest, a bulletproof backpack, a helmet, and you're acting like you're in the middle of World War III, you're probably overdoing it a little, right? And I know for people who've had their lives crushed, is like, I wish my kid would have had that. I wish my wife, and yet at the same time, it's just not really viable for life, right?
Yeah.
You can't live that perpetual fear kind of way.
Trying to always keep it all in bay. It's like
exactly. I mean, are you carrying around a lightning rod? I mean, no one is doing this.
Yeah, and I almost wonder. Almost wonder if it's good though that everyone knows about every little skirmish in the world now. Like, because on one hand you have like the pussification and like demasculizing of like an entire half of the species, right? We can't, and I don't think that's good, because all it takes is one wolf to come along later and fuck them all over. But at the same time, like, is that not like, let's just remove like political biases, like, is it not a good thing that we're moving to a point where, I mean, back in the 1920s, if someone, some dude was a pedophile, it's, oh, that's just a creepy old man. And now we're like, no, that's fucking, call the FBI, fuck that guy. But now, back then it was like, or she was asking for it. And now it's like, no, you're going to prison, right? So it's, there's a good, you can't just, maybe it is good that we look at it now and we're like, 4 dead in a roadside. And it used to be, it used to be that an entire transport plane would hit a mountain. It'd be like, what? Most of them still got there, right? But maybe it's a good thing that our tolerance is going, or really, I mean, maybe it's a good thing our tolerance is going down for it, that now we see 5 deaths and we're like, that's not good. Like, maybe it's good that we don't just go, hey.
So this is like probably a 4,000 point question, but to address just a couple of main ones.
You have 30 seconds to answer, candidate.
This is why I could never actually be a political.
Well, you got 25 seconds left. You're at 23 seconds.
There we go.
We got Durango and the new crutch toothpaste. You want shiny teeth? Back to Dawn with 15 seconds left. Dawn, why do you hate black people?
Well, there's just no way around it
seconds, Dawn. That's what we're going.
So, seriously though, but to the actual, like, is it a good thing that we have reduced tolerance for this? I mean, yes, insofar as we live in such a world where that is even a possibility, right? There's a bunch of stuff that has happened. People documenting like points of view in the 19th century. And in the 19th century, if you worked on a farm, you had 6 kids because 2 of them were going to die.
Yeah.
Just 100% of the time, 2 of them were going to die. And that is such an unfathomable thing for basically any American at this point. Yeah. And is that a good thing? Hell yeah, that's a good thing. On the other hand, I mean, if you're cleaning your kitchen and there's a spot you can't get out on the floor, so you light the kitchen on fire, maybe you went too far.
Sure.
And I think that's sort of the problem we're running into,
Yeah.
is that after a certain point, there is nothing you can do. We live in the safest place in human history, and just hands down, right? I mean, people talk about for the really big gun people of the world, big discussions about caliber, of which I don't really care about for the sake of this point, at least. And so you go back and you look at things like the Derringer, which is a 17 caliber pistol that is smaller than my hand, right? You could quite literally palm the thing easily. Well, that thing killed people. And it killed people not so much because, everyone was a crack shot, so much as if you got a hole in you before antibiotics, like your life could go bad real quick, if you had a hole that wasn't supposed to be there. And sometimes even when you just had one that was supposed to be there, it could still turn out going bad real quick.
Just in general. It's like, that's like the original, like, zombie movie. It's like life before antibiotics. You got one scratch and it's like, he's gonna turn, right?
I don't know. Put him in the back room and let's hope.
Give him a bottle. We're gonna call the priest, man. And it's like, but I got my finger blown off, and it's like, yep. What do you want me to say to your mom? You're like, what do you mean? Right. 5 hours later, you're sweating, there's gangrene, and you turn cyanide.
Seriously,
but really, it's a weird middle ground. What is our tolerance? Because you don't want to get to a point of zero tolerance because then you let it run you. When anything remotely bad happens, everyone's into the fucking world, and it's right. That's not good either.
And you see that already. I don't want to say starting, because it's been going for a while, right? I'm sure everyone has met someone that like has Amber Alerts on their phone, and they're losing their mind when one comes in.
Yeah,
oh my God, a kid was taken 600 miles from me. The hell are you going to do about that? Yeah. Okay, if an Amber Alert comes in and it's my city and it's, 30 minutes ago, then you better believe that if I'm driving around town, I'm looking for that vehicle. I'm looking for that person. But I live in Texas, and I live in Amarillo, Texas, right up there in the Panhandle. If an Amber Alert comes in for Austin, like, there's nothing I can do about that. It's 8 hours away.
Yeah. I was going to say, well, knock on wood, dude. Today at work here in Ocean City, Maryland, an Amber Alert went off, and it was for, like, the highway that, like, our place is on. And I remember when I got to work, and it was on all the TVs, because the guy was like, I'm trying to watch football. And it was like, came up, and someone else came on their phone, like, what the fuck is wrong? Because, like, their phone, it, like, paused the conversation. And it was like, but then, like, at first we were all like, what the fuck? But then I was like, imagine if that's like, and I don't know if they found her, but I remember they said she was 2 years old, 27 pounds. And I'm like, Jesus Christ. Like, and it's like, at that point, it's like good though. It's like the fact that all of our shit was interrupted, like the music stopped and it came on. That's probably a good thing, right?
Well, look, there's no particular I don't hate Amber Alerts as a premise. In fact, look, the reality of Amber Alerts going to your phone is quite literally we just turned the entire society looking for a kidnapper.
We just went Batman on this shit, right?
Seriously. Every phone within X number of miles is like, well, so if you see this,
you can turn it off. On iPhones, you can turn it off, right? I know it's not cool to give shout outs to trillion-dollar corporations, but I'm not a edgy pussy. Shout out.
Well, I mean, is this is getting posted on YouTube at some point, right? I mean, there's only so far away we can get.
Yeah, it's only so on YouTube using Verizon Wireless to connect with an iPhone.
Exactly.
I mean, there's only so far, and I got an Xbox behind this. There's only so far we can go. But
exactly. This is the thing, right? Is we have moved beyond a point where we do these things expressly to be helpful. And now we have a few things. One, people who these things run their lives, right? I've known a couple of people, and maybe this is just my experience, but I seriously doubt it, because every time I say this, somebody goes, yeah, I know that guy. And the Amber Alert goes off on their phone, and they like walk out to the corner like they are about to find the kidnapper standing there. And I'm like, dude, did you even read it? Because, for a while I lived in California, and a big states thing apparently. And so you would see a city that was 2, 3, 4 hours away, come up as an Amber Alert and then see people walk outside and be like, oh yeah, I'm going to find it. You know, I'm going to be the one to find this. And I'm like, no, you aren't. You aren't. Look, I get it. That person was headed vaguely this direction on a freeway. And so they sent them out here in case you happen to see them. They are not coming to your house. And if they're not coming to your house, you walking out to the curb or talking to your neighbor about how they need to keep a lookout and all this, that's not helping anything. And you're really just stressing about something that there's nothing you can do about.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing. And I think that acceptance, some things there's nothing you can do anything about, is an acceptance we need as a country.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes, you can't stop everything. It's just impossible. And not just because, you'd have to trade away freedoms that we have. Well, true, to even get towards stopping everything, you would have to trade away every freedom that you have ever enjoyed because, freedom and security, the only way you get even close to that kind of security is trade away every freedom. But the reality of that situation is even then, shootings happen. Even then, rapes happen. Even then, kidnappings happen. You can't get to even an effective zero, right? And you just destroy everything in your wake every time you try.
Yeah, it's going chemotherapy because you had like one sniffle.
Yeah.
It's like, whoa, we got to amputate. It's like, I just have a headache. And it's like, we got to cut your leg. Sorry, man.
I got a sliver, man. It's not that bad.
I just had some diarrhea. And it's like, all right, well, we'll try to keep your caps on. But, we got to go, man.
Ankle down. It's just gone.
My girlfriend broke off with me. I'm just having a bad day. Lobotomy. Sorry.
Yeah. It sounds ridiculous, but it's quite literally what we do, right? We go to problems that are getting better year over year for decades, and then we decide we have to fix them because they're not gone. Yeah. And you simply can't create zero of any offense, right? Somebody is going to steal, even if they don't do it on purpose, right? It's in movies all the time, right? You're walking through the store and you pick up, I don't know, a chapstick or a lighter or something, and you put it in your pocket, and you get to the cashier and you pay for whatever it is you have, and you forgot the thing was in your pocket. And in a way that actually happens to me, I do buy actual chapstick, and quite literally, I got out to my car to find out that it was stuck in the bottom of my cart and probably not rung up. Yeah. In some extreme zero tolerance world, that means I'm a thief, and we don't have zero theft. Yeah. And so it doesn't even matter if I turn back around and walk in the store and go like, hey, I didn't pay for this, and it wasn't intentional. I'm not stealing. I'm not being malicious. It's just life happens. Yeah. And so you can't get to this zero situation, right? And for anybody who's going to say something like, well, that's not the kind of theft we're talking about. Like, well, either it's zero tolerance or it isn't, right?
Zero or not. Yeah. There's no debating about a percentage.
Right. If that percentage has to be zero, then that counts because technically speaking, I stole something, even if I walked back and paid for it 5 minutes later.
Yeah. It's a weird, you can't destroy it all in the process, but I don't know. I wonder if there's like a root, always like, I wonder if there's like a root thing, and this is a stretch, but something like, it's like whatever, like all these illnesses, right? Well, this person needs a new hip and they need new eye surgery. But at a certain point, it's like, well, everyone we're looking at is like they're over 80 years old. Like at some point, we have to go, is this just aging? And not even an acceptance thing. It might just be like, all right, well, let's fucking dump some money into genomics and biotechnology and nanotechnology, and then just erase the split or this unleash. What is it? Splitting of telomeres. You have a limited number. Point is like you kind of get to this core thing, right? I wonder if there's like a core thing that it's like all war and everything is, what I think, at least my argument is that everything is, aside from like a handful of just like psychopaths and assholes, is like a lot of shit kind of comes down to just like resource scarcity. Like if you really wanted to boil down, right? If you really wanted to boil down everything in life, you could say that there's things you want to do and things you don't want to do. And that would cover everything from creating nuclear weapons to picking bananas, right?
Sure.
Ultimately, it would. It seems like almost all bad stuff. I mean, like almost all, over 99.99, comes from resource scarcity.
Well, so resource scarcity tends to be an excuse, realistically speaking. And my favorite example of this is Hitler invading France, where, and that might seem ridiculous, but seriously.
You need living space.
Yeah. Well, so Hitler's excuse for invading France was oil, right? Yeah, I can't power the war machine without the oil, and the country's running out of oil. And my understanding of this, not perfect, I'm sure, is effectively that Hitler could have run Nazi Germany effectively in perpetuity if he wasn't having a war. However, if he was going to be having a war, he needed more oil. And so, because he was going to be having a war, he needed to invade France and get their oil.
Yeah. Yeah. I need your oil. Why? For my war machine. Why do you need a war machine? To get your oil.
Exactly.
What?
Right.
I don't need to argue anymore. I'm in charge. By then, the tanks have rolled in.
Exactly.
Right?
See how I have tanks? That means I'm right.
That they're the end. Yeah. But I've often thought, like, I wonder if it's like if everyone. It's like I had a guy on in the late 20s episode. I still don't know his real name, but he's a soldier in Sayeret, Sayeret, Israeli Special Forces.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, he sent me his military like ID and his like not Jewish. Oh yeah, there's something with that. His Israeli passport. She's so fucking close minded. His Jewish card. Like no, his Israeli passport. Sent me all this data and was like please delete that. So I was like, all right, I did. But yeah, I had him on and we were talking about like Hezbollah or something. And I was like, man, if anyone would want them dead more than me, it's you, like a Jew. And he was like, oh yeah, no, like I like killing them. And I was like, fuck yeah. And he's like, but man, he's like, I thought I was gonna say something like I just really love killing them or like making them suffer or something, something. I was like something that I couldn't understand, right? That only he could understand. And he goes, man, I just feel so bad for them. And I was like, what? And he was like, some of them are like, yes, they're these like ideologues. And he's like, they suck. They need to die yesterday. And he's like, I have to kill them all. But he's like, a lot of them, they're like illiterate. Like they don't know basic addition, like addition and subtraction. They make like 10 cents a week. They have no nutrition. They have no running water. They shit in their living room. And they have a daughter who has nothing. And finally, some rich Saudi-funded guy comes along. Some Saudi-funded guy comes along and goes, here's $10,000. There's going to be a U.S. convoy tomorrow over that hill. Shoot this RPG at them. Bring back the RPG cartridge. Or, dig this hole, put this IED down. Bring it back to me. And if you're alive, you get 10,000 cash.
Yeah.
Don't. You can go keep making a nickel a week. And by the way, you might just die next week from a random militia. And he goes, there are a lot of guys that have nothing. No, it's not like, well, maybe if I work harder at school. There is no school. There's nothing. There's no roads. There's no written language. It's just, and they go, fuck, I'm going to go shoot this RPG. And then they shoot it. And then some special forces guy goes like, Tango. And they take him out. And it's like, well, whatever. My life sucks anyway. He's like, I feel for them. He's like,
well, so that is the question of would you risk your life for your family? Distilled down to its purest form, right? Because there's nobody that's digging that hole. There's nobody that's holding that RPG that doesn't know they're risking their life. Right? If you live in a war zone and you're holding an RPG and pointing it at U.S. forces, you probably have a good idea of what's coming if they catch you.
Yeah.
And it's going to be coming at 3,000 feet per second at minimum.
Yeah.
And that is the question is, would you, in your own life, you have wife, kids, literally nothing, and you're starving to death, or even vaguely close, would you put your life on the line? And certainly a lot of that happens, right? There are plenty of IED emplacers that have been caught and said, I don't know anything about your war other than that you're having it. But you know, my harvest was bad this year and we were all going to starve.
They don't even know
And
what this Israeli guy said is a lot of them don't even know what 9/11 was.
oh
They've never
yeah,
heard of it. They're like 9/11, like, you know, they don't
with the
even
what now? Yeah,
they don't even know that they're numbers. They're like, huh?
yeah.
It's just
It's a non-existent thing.
twilight.
It's simply outside of the. But this is a thing that we can't fix. Is the reality, right? Because we are well beyond Team America World Police line at that line, right? Even if we put what amounts to a cop on every corner, you've still got a lot of people. One, so Afghanistan is, we call it a country, but it's sort of like the non-United States,
Yeah.
or at least it has
Vibes
been
and shit. Yeah.
for most of its existence, right? You know, you go to one little town and they have never been out of their little town. They don't know there's a national government. They don't even know there's an Afghanistan necessarily.
Yeah. It's just.
And so, you know, well, look, we plant stuff over there. We raise the sheep over there. That guy makes clothes. That's their whole life.
Sun comes
And,
there, water's over there.
yep.
Grab a
You
shovel.
know,
You're part of the team.
and so that, you know, that's everything that they're working with. And the problem with, you know, the sort of exploitation that you're talking about, and that is what it is that the Taliban rolls into these little towns and is like, well, I'll tell you what, we'll kill the guy that raises the sheep if you guys don't go dig a hole over there.
Yeah.
And wait a minute, we can't really have the guy that raises the sheep die.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we do dig holes. I don't know. Hey, they even brought a shovel.
Yeah, fuck it. All right. Yeah. Okay. Not only that is like, hey, that's better offer than the last group made. Like, you know, they just killed the guy that's cheap because, right?
And unironically at times, right? But the thing is, what are you going to do? Go down to that little town, run water and power there, build them a whole city, till the ground, get them in contact with the national government, who is horrendously weak and always has been, but give them SEAL Team 6 apparently, so that they can just airdrop them in anytime the Taliban shows up in under 30 minutes. I mean, it becomes ridiculously impossible very quickly. And we might be the most powerful nation the world's ever seen, and blah, 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 you know, get after as much as you want. We still simply can't be everywhere all the time. Yeah. And that is, to stop that kind of thing, we would need to be. Or somebody else would need to be, or we would need to get together with people to be everywhere all the time, which is sort of the idea of NATO, but that doesn't work out either, right?
No, it's, and then furthermore, back to what the Israeli guy said, who he just told me to call him T, so T, is, he's like, but then he's like, despite all of this, he's like, ultimately, when it's you and your fellow special forces guys who have wives and kids and you're out there, when you see a guy digging a hole or getting on his knees with an RPG, it makes no difference whether or not he's a radical ideologue or whether he's just a dude that's like, I don't want him to kill my sheep. Because at the end of the day, there's an RPG pointing at you.
Yeah. I mean,
like,
so no matter how you line up that equation, it is either do something now or you're going to die.
Right? Or it's like suicide by cop. It's like, well, dude, at one point now someone is going to die. So who's it going to be? All right. Right. It gets real hairy real quickly. So, but what I was getting at was like, yeah, it turns into this utopian so you're going to, build all this. So no, I'm not saying go in and build all, to me, I'm looking at like a much more just like general core. What if we had something like limitless energy? Well, where would that start? The first thing that would be everyone would just do whatever they wanted in America. You'd eventually get to a point, and that might take a couple generations of just pure gluttony and sloth and indulgence and hedonism. Maybe we get to a point where like, fuck it, I got nothing else to do. Let's see if we can bring drinking water somewhere. It would take a long time, but it almost seems like, I mean, it's such an airy idea, and I can't make an argument for it. I'm not going to try to, but it just seems like.
So some of this already happens, actually. That and you might just enjoy the story given the intent there. I am not a particularly giant Bill Gates fan, but I thought this was pretty awesome. Sometime about early 2000s, I think, Bill Gates decided his thing was clean drinking water. And so he started out just building desalination plants and literally shipping water all over the place, paying Nestle millions and millions of dollars to do this because that's already what they did, that sort of thing. And what he kept finding is you bring clean drinking water to the middle of Africa and you deliver enough that you say, hey, look, this is 30 days worth of water. I'll be back in 29 days. You'll have 30 more days worth of drinking water. And the local warlord would go, thanks for 30 days worth of drinking water. I will now use this to enslave the local populace.
Yeah.
And so he pretty quickly determined that this was not like actually a functional thing he could be doing, because let's not promote local warlord. And so he developed this bottle that you can airdrop from something like 10,000 feet. You just kick it out the side of a plane, and it's like carpet bombing, and it will fall 10,000 feet. It will not break, and it will provide you with roughly 30 days worth of drinking water, or possibly longer than that, 6 months or something. I forget the exact number, but a lengthy period of time you could filter water through it. And the point of this is he would just fly over villages and just push thousands of them out the side. Yeah. And so he would like carpet bomb the villages. So even if the local warlord is out there collecting these things, you only need one. Right. Mm-hmm. And it's going to provide you and family and what have you with enough clean drinking water to get by. And I don't know what happened to this program, but there were a whole bunch of technology articles about it. Because look, creating a water bottle that you could throw out of a plane at 10,000 feet and filter water at the bottom is pretty legit. These days, you can get Nalgene bottles, the ones with the internal filter, basically the same bottle as far as I can tell.
Yeah, and but then like so yeah, when I bring up this idea of like unlimited resources, by no means do I argue. To me, it's more of like a thought experiment. Like I can't possibly be like a policy. Like, let me tell you how this is gonna. It's I'm a fucking moron who just got off working at a liquor store. Now I'm going to tell you how we're going to get clean drinking water powered by fusion. Buckle up, guys. Don't look at my personal life. Buckle up, right? It's yeah. I got my Xbox controller next to me. Like, yeah, okay, let's do it.
That's the thing that'll make it happen, actually.
There we go. Yeah. But after that speech, I'm going to go ahead and do it anyway. So what's the problem? The warlord. Why is the warlord the way the warlord is? Is it just like the alpha of the community that says someone's going to live, it's going to be me? Well, why is that? Why does he need all those? Now, and it comes down to, in like this sort of like more kind of liberal, flowery way, well, maybe if he just had a life, he wouldn't do this? Or is it more of the life of hard knocks? Or some people just cunts, and that's someone that needs his head blown off?
Well, there are some things that are not going to ever be unlimited resource, right? So warlords, let's say, describe this generously, and say they have access to women that most people couldn't imagine, right? It just unfathomably so. Whatever it is that you desire, that's there. Yeah. And there is, what are you going to do? Start cloning slave women for people? It become, again, it's you're beyond the realm of reality here. And if you are doing that, then, what are those people doing? And so it's not just that. On top of that is, if you've ever walked into a room and just known the moment you were in there that whatever the room was focused around, like, I don't know, maybe you play foosball, and you're just the best foosball player in the friggin' room, and maybe even in the county, right? When you walk into that room of foosball players, you're like, what? Yeah. And that feeling right there, exactly. Yeah. The knuckle crack and the a little bit with the neck.
Right, yeah. It's like,
you're walking tall, you're going to lay the hammer down. That is also not an unlimited resource. And a thing that lots and lots of people use in whatever variety of way, that feeling of I have power over the world around me. And look, it's relevant specifically for people who grew up not with power over the world around them. And if you're a warlord, you probably grew up in a place where you didn't have much power over the world around you.
Because there was a warlord, right? It's
right. And so apparently my camera's losing its mind, which is
I was about to say, you motherfucker, are you just AI? I was like, motherfucker.
Yes, I am just I am actually attempting to pass the Turing test now. So
you really got me, because you entertained the idea of the Turing test, and I never went through. I was talking to well, joke's on you, motherfucker, I'm AI.
See, that will be the time that we really know we have AI.
That's what it's going to be. It's going to be a podcaster having on a guest via Zoom, and it turns out the host is also how many people in the audience were tricked.
Oh man! But regardless, you get these non-physical resources, that and of course time, right?
Yeah.
Time, unless we all become immortal, in which case we have a whole brand new set of problems.
Yeah.
Time will remain a limited resource, and so these things that are intangible will cause equal numbers of problems to we don't have enough food.
Yeah.
And it's, we again in the United States live in the most blessed time in the world, but this is basically what you're dealing with like the school bully, right? Who just sucks at everything except punching people in the face. So
or it's like recreational outrage. It's like when you don't need when you have clean drinking water and there's not a warlord, what do? How dare you use the wrong pronoun? And you just choose this new battle. And it's almost like you almost want these. I got to go piss. I don't know if you need to, but I'm going to go. If not, you can. All right. Well, there's a 30-second gap, so everybody fast forward or don't. I don't give a fuck. We'll be right back.
all right, chat. Now we can do all the things. I'm sorry. Comment section. We can do all the things that we shouldn't do. Well, he's back. Never mind.
He's back. Fuck. Boobs. Yeah, it does. It does just kind of resuming. It's like, yeah, there are some things that are always going to be like, it's like what if we had an unlimited resource? What if we had like unlimited touchdowns? It's like, well, part of like the fun of like football is like you have a Super Bowl champion. That means everyone else lost.
Yeah, and
that's
so
the fun.
Well, you get the attempt to alleviate that is the everybody gets a trophy nonsense.
Yeah,
and I think by now we can say that has negative results.
It did not fucking work at all. It didn't work at all. It's what happens when your president doesn't win, and it's like, dude, all right, just vote again.
Oh,
I want it now.
Yeah, right. Not only do I want it now, if I don't get it, I'm going to light the country on fire.
Exactly.
How about no?
I had my friend on, Jared Bohannon a couple weeks ago, who's probably like my second guest ever too. Shout out Jared. But I remember he was like, I'm pretty apolitical. He was like, one side, he's like, I get the Trump argument. He was like, strong borders, strong military, economy record high. He goes, but there's a very strong argument for I just don't want like my fucking house lit on fire. And he's like, say what you will. He's like, it's persuasive. He's like, half house not on fire, and my house has not been on fire my whole life. And I can only imagine on fire, it's probably not. So,
it's not quite as good.
Second Amendment on fire.
This is way back to the introduction point here. This is when I say I try to get the right together. I probably
2 hours later. Let's swing it.
Swing it way back to the first 5 minutes. I probably should define the right, which is to say that at this point, I think there are actually two factions in this country, which is to say the crazy people burning down cities that are demanding everything in the world, no matter how ridiculous, no matter how plausible or feasible, just like, well, no cop should ever shoot a black person ever again. Like, like, what if the black person is shooting at them? Can they shoot them then?
And I identify as black and just
Commit crime? Do it like, you're not arresting me. Leave me alone. You know,
yeah.
and
Yeah.
these kinds of people and everyone else. And the everyone else is who I consider to be the right at the moment, at bare minimum, if only because those people are so very self-evidently the left. And look, if you are a Democrat, who is like, well, look, man, I've been in the drillers union for 22 years, and I vote Democrat, and I think that I don't know, we differ vaguely on fiscal policy. Go ask those people burning down cities. You are the far right. And the person who exemplifies this the best, I think, is Tim Pool, because Tim's a lefty. No two ways about it. He's been in the left his whole life, and they call that guy the far right.
Not only that, dude, my siblings and some of my best friends in Atlanta who are doctors, lawyers, fucking like high-level accountants. I mean, like respectful, awesome dudes. And
yeah,
you look at them and like at any point before 2016, it'd be like they're left, I'm right. Now you talk to them and like my buddy Ernie, he's coming on again tomorrow. Ernie was born in Mexico, worked in the Obama administration in the Democratic Party in Georgia. And he gets on, and I'm like, Ernie, what do you think about the riots? And he's like, fucking shoot them all. It's like, here's this guy that's like, literally works for the Obama administration. And he's like, what the fuck are you doing? So it's like, but then anyone goes, oh, okay. So now Ernie's like an Uncle Tom. And it's like, dude, Uncle Ernie, fuck it, whatever. I'm Tom. Ernie and Uncle Tom, but they're like, who's this guy like role playing as like lefty? I'm like, Ernie is the farthest. Ernie and I have been friends since 2010, drinking vodka and playing Mario Kart in the dorms. Like, right. And I remember then Ernie and I would be at each other's, red in the face, yelling at each other, rah, 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 right, rah, 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 left. And, but we're still friends. But even now, Ernie comes on. And to me, I'm like, yeah, Ernie's my lefty friend. But I've had people like look at it and be like, who the fuck is this guy? And I'm like, what do you mean? Or like my siblings or my and other best friends who are like historically like very far left. But I look at them and, they're kind of doing like the double take, like, dude, what are you talking about? I have like a nice home. My girlfriend's a doctor. We got a kid on the way. We just got a new car. They're not burning. We just, we disagree on like social programs and like military. Yeah. Aside from that, we're like 99% like, I just want like a safe neighborhood, like raise kids, good schools, a manageable tax rate. And, I'd like to just, have some beers on the weekend.
Yeah. And look, I make no mistake, so when I say I try to get the right together, I probably should give that definition because it's not the one that anybody thinks, right? But
rioters,
everybody else, right? Okay, look, let's go back to arguing about whether or not the Affordable Care Act is a good idea. Can we go back to there for 5 minutes, please?
Yeah. What a great time. We could just argue about healthcare instead of like, now it's like, okay, hear me out. I don't think you should be able to burn down my Wendy's. Racist. It's like, God damn it. What happened to when we were like, what should the marginal tax rate be on the 1%?
Right.
Now it's, okay, wait, I'll kneel down and you can burn my car, but do I get a pass?
Yeah. And look, there's a lot of people that this encompasses, is in my opinion. And end result, I don't... It doesn't, I'm sure a lot of people are going to listen to that and go, Don, that's not about left and right. Well, like, these people are defining you as the right wing. I'm not doing that. I'm just taking their definition and rolling with it. Yeah. Because unironically, Tulsi Gabbard is a far-right Russian spy. Yeah. All right. Tulsi, Medicare for all, big giant lefty platform, is a far right spy because she's like, no, you don't get to burn down cities. No. Yeah.
It's, or Joe Rogan is an alt-right white supremacist. I'm like
pot smoking hippie wants every progressive policy that's ever been. Joe Rogan
on his podcast,
right?
Had Bernie Sanders on his podcast.
Was openly going to vote for Bernie? That far right, all right. What
the fuck?
This is the thing is I watched some of Bill Maher gets this, right? Oh, Bill Maher is he's a right wing shill, and I'm like,
J.K. Rowling. Who? J.K. Rowling. I didn't know this. You know, J.K. Rowling is a new right-wing fucking neo-Nazi.
Right.
He's like, if you have a penis, you're not a woman. They're like,
Yeah, exactly. And that was it. You know,
oh, with her, the Harry Potter woman. These people live in fantasy world, and they're calling her a fucking
exactly.
right-wing, and it's just like, oh, so you
And
don't have to do anything anymore. You're just like,
just maybe if you shoot dangles, then you're a dude. Oh well, that's it. You're a Nazi.
I wonder if we could go full 4chan weaponized autism. How could you somehow make not rioting the only far left thing? Right? Well, no, because then they would just paint that as, you have to push it further, right? You'd have to somehow say that like nursing homes are a symbol of the far right. You have to get them burning down nursing homes. Or they hate cops. What you need to do is somehow get like an all firefighters are bastards thing.
Yeah, there you go.
Everyone is on board with firefighters. They're the guys that put out the fire. Just are none, left or right, black or white, they'll come and put out the fire.
See, this is the downside.
If you could turn that.
This is the downside of being like this attached to what these idiots are doing, is that we started getting firefighters won't go into an unsecured scene because the all cops are bad people would take shots at firefighters.
Yeah.
And I was like, who exactly is pissed off about the guy who comes and puts your house out when it's on fire? Is this really who we're going after?
Well, I had on Tony Moon 2 weeks ago or last week, an original rooftop Korean. Like,
oh yeah?
OG, yeah. He's bad. Yeah, he talked about riding around with a fucking Remington and a Beretta when he was 19. His dad made him go on patrol. Yeah, fucking hardcore. And he's base as fuck, but he was like, yeah, they were shooting at firefighters.
Yeah.
And he was like, why? I mean, you know what the answer is? It is a bunch of opportunist fucks. Has nothing to do with the actual movement, but I mean, you would have. I think eventually they're gonna. It almost seems like, and I've talked about this with my buddy Paul before, is something whose very nature, right? It's almost like, isn't there? I'm pretty sure I've heard Alex Jones make this argument of all people, but isn't there like isn't there like a basis for like biblical terms, like evil is that which destroys and like good is that which creates, but that's all. It even doesn't matter what it is. It's like the general creation of. It's like literally the term of like, you know, like spring in the world, where things are born and then fall. So you could even argue that spring is good and fall is evil. It's that simple: creation, destruction. If you look at that, I mean, at its core, a movement that is built on canceling, on taxing, on destroying, on burning, on killing, on screaming at, and it doesn't matter. And you can never join, because if they say just apologize for this, and you go, I apologize for this, well, then the goalpost
not good enough.
And so that's how
now
you
lay prostrate.
Yeah, exactly. But now that's how you get people like J.K. Rowling and Bill Maher being like those far, like people calling Ernie far right, and it's just like, kidding me?
Oh man,
Ernie on. He has an American flag with a cutout of Obama in front of it. He's just smiling, and they're calling him Ernie, born in Mexico, and like, but
obviously right-wing extremists.
Obviously, Heinrich Himmler. I mean, right? But shout out, Ernie's going to be on tomorrow. Ernie's going to be on tomorrow to talk about Ruth Bader Ginsburg, just because I know he and I are going to disagree, and that's why I have him on, is to have my ideas challenged. But point being, this entity that is right now and I don't even want to say left, because I don't think there's anything wrong with liberals. This isn't that. This is
the thing is, culturally, I don't think, or at least politically culturally, because culturally, like you and your neighbor, liberals have plenty of traction, right? So again, people I have minor policy, well, even major policy disagreements, right? So, you know, if you want to come down and argue with me about the Affordable Care Act, and I will tell you it's the worst thing in the world, except for socialized medicine, which would be worse, then fine, we can go have that argument, right? Great. And these are still people that at the end of it, like, they're not shouting that I just want everyone to die, ideally, right? You know, not those people. Then, okay, fine. We can have a political disagreement and move on, but and you know, still be friends, still go get a beer, do whatever. But for the people who are out there burning down cities, if you go tell them that Medicare for all is bad, they look at you as though you are saying X number, which is in the millions, changes all the time. But you want 10 million people to die, like no. But from their perspective, you're a genocidal maniac. So if they kill you, then you stop the genocide, right? Stalin before the Holodomor. Shucks. Hitler before the concentration camps. Oops. Nothing of value was lost.
Yeah.
And that the thing is, they also are getting incredible political traction, right? So, when you see Maxine Waters say, go out and find these people, right? That's the kind of thing that I would like to imagine that any of the people that have been the left most of my life, right? You're kind of liberal, kind of lefty kind of guys, like, how about if we don't just track people down and make their lives miserable? And those people, love you guys, have you any day of the week. You are not part of the left for these people anymore. You, by the way, are the people that when Project Veritas gets that video that says, liberals get to pull it too, they're talking about you, know?
Yeah. Again, like my friends that I historically would say are like liberal, those are the friends that like, and obviously I won't name any of them, but I love it because like I'll see this insanity going on. And like they won't openly come out and like denounce it, but I'll just see they won't say anything endorse it. And I'm
that
like,
Homer Simpson thing.
Exactly. As me who's known them since Facebook first started, and they'll always they're in like they're for it. When I see like hunt down Whitey or something, I'll just again they're not gonna go Trump. I get it. Like I'm not telling them to, but they kind of just slowly believe.
Yeah, right.
And to me, that's what gives me hope. I'm like, that's not them. That's not Ernie. That's not my friends from college and high school. That's not them. But but that is the power of controlling the media, is if you can beam into everyone. I mean, think of how insane a television set is. You can come into a television set is basically a periscope to the outside world. You're in the ocean because you're not going up and looking at your city from the sky. You're coming home from work. If they're like, there are rides downtown, you're like, there are rides downtown. But then like, I think of like all the insanity I see every day, like what's happening in the world. And then I could drive to work and it's just like, you go in, the person I work with is just kind of on their phone. Like, what's up? Like black guy comes in. It's like, what's up, man? You got Fireball? I'm like, yeah, here you go, buddy. And another white guy comes in. It's like, what's up, man? You got Jim Beam? I'm like, yeah, what's going on? Like kind of birds chirping. And you're like, are you gonna mop today? Yeah. And they're like, oh, riots in the streets. And I'm like, I don't think so. So the point is like, I think this idea that it's like the left and the right biblical showdown. I think like the overwhelming majority of people are just like, I'm not for burning down streets and hunting Whitey. I'm just going to argue for Affordable Care Act, and Tommy is probably going to argue for a greater military. And then we're going to butt heads at that, maybe go a little overboard, have one too many beers. But like, like guys, we're going to hug it out and be like, love you, brother. And then we're going to go fucking watch Anchorman and get high. Like,
exactly.
It's like,
that is
good. That's good.
That is the vast majority of people, as far as I can tell.
Yeah.
A little bit of the problem here, one, is to that earlier point that we know about everything, right? Because there was a riot in some garbage little city just south of Portland, right? And it was, by riot, I mean, it was like 40 minutes long, and people were, don't get me wrong, people lit things on fire, but then it dispersed, right? And in the world of like, do we need to panic about that? Probably not. The local cops were like, yep, well, you said you were here to protest and you're going to burn stuff down. So guess what? You get handcuffs or you get to leave. I don't care which it is, but one's going to happen now.
Yeah. They got like their mittens on. They're drinking their coffee. They're like, all right. It's like, it just kind of seems like LARPing revolutionaries.
Well, it definitely is. Though I will say there are some very seriously concerning things that they do.
There are ones who aren't playing.
Well, not just that. So one of the things that I've spent a lot of time on is that when these guys get out there, and the Chaz was really instructive for this, as ridiculous as that thing was.
God, I missed that.
Yeah. Well, there's another one, right? There's a Free State of George Floyd.
Where? What is this?
In Minneapolis, on the corner that George Floyd died on. It's about 4 blocks. That is now the Free State of George Floyd.
When did this happen?
I think it's been up almost 3 weeks now, something like that. It just hasn't turned into the murder hobo disaster zone that the Chaz turned into in like 5 minutes.
The Chaz was the most fucking hilarious, real time, like quick scrimmage of communism I've ever seen. They shut out everyone. They got armed. They robbed everyone of everything, and they even tried and failed to grow potatoes. Everything about it was so great. It was like, it really was just like, it's like a little lab experiment in a petri dish. Here, watch communism go. So
it was right.
The professor's like, watch, right? You know, it's like when the professor drops like the iodine and shows you the chemical reaction. Oh, you know, it's the chemistry. So I'm going to show you communism real quick. Now, around 2 minutes, the potatoes. Drop it. Who spotted the potatoes? Very good, Susie. There are the potatoes. All right. Now, where's the? It's just like you're literally like
you don't grow on cardboard. Who knew?
No. And then like, can anyone guess what's going to happen at 4 weeks? All the kids raise their hand. It's going to shut down. It's going to shut down. Right?
Yeah, kind of.
It almost feels like a weird natural law. It's like, oh, here it goes. Hit all the steps.
And it's done.
And it's good.
The things that were, I mean, don't get me wrong. Some portions of this were always going to be hilarious. I could not have predicted the garden would be quite as hilarious as it was, but Kami's track record of growing things is not good. I figured it'd be funny, just not quite that funny. But the things that I find concerning is that they were very actively trying to establish like a cult group kind of mythos, right? And I spent all my time comparing that to the Marine Corps because I was a Marine, and so you see very similar things. They create sort of a code of conduct. They create a list of heroes, and they openly and overtly worship those heroes, right? And so they create even their own sort of personalized system of discipline, which sucks because they're commies, but they create their own, general way of getting along with each other that includes something vaguely that looks like discipline and looks a little bit like mayhem, but they're learning. And so but the thing is, as they create this mythos, what that really does is create something for them to go back to, something for them to draw motivation from. And the particularly worrying thing about this for me is that you see the outputs of it in the Free State of George Floyd. The list of names that they were saying in Chaz are now painted on the streets of Minneapolis because that is the heroes of the movement, right? And it's the same, it's worrying because that's the same sort of thing where you get, when a couple of Marines meet each other, they're just family, right? They just are. I saw a guy in a gas station with an 8-point cover, and we had a 30-minute conversation because I was like, nice hat. Took that much, right? And it is a thing that you draw on and carry on, and it's the almost spiritual portion of how to be able to persevere and push through. And so even though they have lots and lots of hilarious and obvious failures, they are minting people who are going to keep pushing. And at the same time that they're doing that, again, I know this is hilarious to watch. Portland just had a thing where the cops just hammer and anviled a bunch of protesters in the world of, come in from one side and just smash them with riot control from the other. And it is peak hilarity because these little LARPing losers just get like hammered. Exactly. Right. And they're all screaming medic like that's going to do something.
That is my favorite. That is targeting enough. That is my favorite piece of all of this is them screaming medic.
It is very Call of Duty. I'm not going to
lie. There is nothing I would love for them to watch. Like, medic. I need their support.
But, oh, man. So that's actually kind of the concerning thing here, right? Is that, don't get me wrong, again, I know these things are currently hilarious. So they're creating those stupid little shields. that you see everywhere, right? But those shields are actually doing what they're created to. I take it I should explain that. So they started making shields out of 50-gallon drums. You take the drum, you cut it in half, you create like a PVC outline to it, and then you create what amounts to, you know, a full-size tower shield, right? And they're using them to deflect gas canisters as well as batons. And the baton is interesting because that means that shield can take some punishment. Like you could get almost anything to deflect a gas canister, as long as it can take just some baser amount of force. You know, a piece of plywood would do just fine, which also would do for a baton for a little bit. But they're, you know, and again, they're all the way up to like 6th century tactics because they finally discovered what a phalanx is. And so I get it. It is both funny, but it should also sort of be concerning because these idiots walked out, and they're still doing this in some places, with umbrellas to stop gas canisters at the beginning of these, right? Or in some cases, they had literally nothing. They just walked out there and stood in the way. They are, I again grant, moronically and slowly adapting tactics to what's being used. And they are also at the same time developing a mythos that says, hey, we should keep pushing. And whether or not anybody wants to classify this as you know, battle testing, as it were, for them, even though it's sort of LARPy battle testing, they are out there fighting on a regular basis with riot cops. And look, maybe because I have ever done anything vaguely related to riot training in my life, I don't want to fight riot cops. But at the same time, they are also standing out front, getting, you know, hit with batons, getting gassed. And they are getting more and more comfortable with that. And they are getting more aggressive. 4 days ago, they Molotov the cops in Portland. Not a building, not a car, actual riot cops. They threw a Molotov at them. And that is that they are no longer simply being defensive. Their tactics are adapting to what the cops are doing, and they're building sort of a spiritual carry-on point to go. Now, don't get me wrong. It's not going to be 100% of these rioters that you need to be concerned about, but that is going to be more people than it otherwise would have been, and they are becoming progressively more of a threat because of it. And so this is the kind of thing where I know it's easy to laugh at them, and make no mistake, I do plenty of laughing at them because they are hilarious. But at the same time that they're hilarious, they are doing things that have at least the potential for long-term outputs.
Yeah, long enough timeline. Yeah, look at
the more
candles and goats, and the next thing you know, they only have knives and box cutters, and next thing you know, it's Tower 1 just fell, right? Granted,
exactly
hyperbole, but it's, you know, the idea. I get the idea.
Yeah. And the thing about it is, this is a carry-on from a time that we just don't talk about, right? So in the 60s, the kind of commies, socialist utopia douchebags of the world were out there trying to create autonomous zones so that they could have a place that they could go back to and strike out and have a guerrilla war against the rest of the United States. And a lot of the people who were doing that are people who are cited by these people. So, oh man, all of a sudden I forget her name. The lady that killed a cop and then went to Cuba. The beginning of the Black Lives Matter movement, they were saying her name a lot.
I was going to say, I was thinking of the Weather Underground.
Them too, right?
Yeah.
So the lady I'm thinking of, I'm sure the comment section will know, but she was part. Oh my God! So my camera is just going to murder me today.
You're all right, man. I don't give a fuck. Do whatever you want. I don't give a shit, dude. Keep going.
So I'll just be tiny here at the bottom. So she was part of the Black Panther movement back in the 60s.
I'm going to make mine really tiny in the top right.
There we go.
But yeah. Sorry, lady in top. Yeah.
And you know, the Weather Underground, it was the same sort of shtick. They were, you know, they were striking out, bombing things. The trope that you see in procedural cop shows where somebody blows up a ship in New York, one of them ends up found dead, and then, you know, because it's a procedural cop show, they eventually find some other people, and that sort. That is a story directly out of the Weather Underground. They were, you know, that is the thing they actually did. The missing people never turned up. So we have no idea if they blew themselves up. But you see the sort of carry-ons of this, and the current group of violent lunatic communist morons that, again, are probably not the guy that was a Democrat that you know from next door. They are citing them, which implies that they already have this long-term carry-on history thing sort of down. You know, they are reaching back 60 years to cite people who did similar things to what they're doing today.
Okay. Yeah, and not only that is I think there's two things. One, a common call from, again, I don't want to even say that from the right is, there you go, here you're getting bigger. Is why didn't how come you're not sending in the feds to go bust up Chaz or Chad or whatever the fuck it was, right?
Chop,
Chode. I don't give a fuck. Bunch of communist douchebags. But point is it's like, how come they're not going in there and busting it up? And it's like, there's also, you gotta understand, like, goading a response. You want, I'm not touching you, I'm not touching you, I'm not touching you. Whap, mommy hit me, right?
Yeah.
They want nothing more because they love LARPing that Trump is a fascist, which it's crazy because it's like, it's almost like the sentence, like, this statement is false, right?
Right.
It's like if you're reading somewhere that Trump is a fascist, the fact that was allowed to get online, and the fact that person wasn't killed, and the fact that you aren't arrested for viewing this material.
Right. If you are not required to report this to your local censor before the Gestapo finds you,
yeah,
probably not a fascist.
The fact that you can tell me that Trump is a fascist is like, it's like what Tim Dillon said. He was like, do you ever listen to Tim Dillon?
Nah, I don't even know who that is.
Dude, my brother introduced me to it. He showed me Tim, we were drinking. No, he sent me a link. He was like, you got to watch this guy. I was like, dude, I don't give a fuck. I feel like most comedy is just dead now. Point is that he showed me this. Tim Dillon, who's actually, I wouldn't say that's psychopath writing, but is like a more classical liberal. He looks like Chris Farley. He's highly intelligent. He's a comedian. He's been on Rogan a couple times. I think he's the funniest human being alive. And I fucking hate listening to, like, recommended. You should listen to this guy. I finally listened to him. And this is like the first sentence I heard him say was like, yeah, he's like, you go on Twitter and you see people are like, Donald Trump is a fascist, and 400,000 people retweet it. And then, like, under it will be like, and by the way, here's my web series. There's a Patreon. And he's like, and I'm looking at this like, is there a time for a web series? Like, do I need to be arming myself to take down the government? He's like, is this fascism or not? He's like, do I need to be looking at your take on the Mueller report, or do I need to go dig up the AK from the backyard and, viva la revolution? It's like, well,
this is another thing that always kills me with that sort of thing is that it's like, so he is an and look, for those that don't remember, this was basically what they said about Bush too, was, he's an unmitigated evil, and so we have to insert something, whatever, Bush lied, people died, kind of nonsense. Mm-hmm. And it's like, if you believed any of this, and I mean even a single word of this, first of all, you would be out back digging a nuclear fallout shelter. That would be step one. And the next thing you would be doing is figuring out who goes in your nuclear fallout shelter with you and how many guns you could possibly get a hold of, because that would be a rational response to the things that you're saying.
It's like, I think that philosopher Alan Watts, he's like died in 1973, but I love Alan Watts. He's like he used to be like a pastor, but he was like Christians. He always cracks it. He's like, Christians don't actually believe what they say. He's like, because if you did, like, you'd be out running in the street converting everyone. He was like, the people that really believe it, they blow themselves up. He's like, because they truly believe it. Everyone else, it's like, it's just convenient to kind of say you. If you truly believe that a fascist is in power, you're not going, fuck this fascist. If you truly thought he was a fascist, not only would you not allowed to tweet that, you would self-censor.
Oh, man. Not even a joke.
If you seriously, if you truly believed, you'd be like, I just go to work. I don't, you would be reporting suspicious activity. You would truly. So But point being, something
Oh,
calling him a fascist. I feel like they would want nothing more than, and like dirty commies, they fucking sacrifice each other, is they would want nothing more than Trump to go from saying something mean on Twitter and they try to paint that as fascism. Imagine if Trump actually rolled out like tanks, right? Or,
oh yeah.
sorry, last, I meant to say this earlier, deflecting tear gas and deflecting batons. So what does that now do? You are now obliged to up the level of force because that isn't working. Eventually, you're going to get to rubber bullets. Eventually, you're going to get to real bullets.
Yeah.
Bingo. They got their shot. They got their firing on innocent protesters. So it's
And
like
100% that will be the headline.
Yeah.
The thing about this is, if so, in my opinion, there were two ways to handle this. One is on day one, right? The massive riots start, and you go down as the feds, and you tell all these cities, look, you're not allowed to let your cities burn. So either you fix this or I will.
Yeah.
And like day two, you're putting down riots. That way it's not getting big. It's not getting out of hand.
Yeah.
Ideally, you're arresting people, not just shooting them at random, right? You're arresting them and holding them federally for whatever reason you want, which is probably a less than ideal circumstance. But so is people burning down cities. So, all right. But since that didn't happen, I have gotten to what I effectively call the don't shoot, let them burn policy, which is to say that, look, no city, no, actual group of citizens who go to work want their city burning to the ground on a daily basis. And for like a couple of months there, that was actually a reality in a couple of American cities. Yeah. Well, a lot of them really. Oh. And so the reason for the don't shoot, let them burn policy, which, yes, I stole directly from Saving Private Ryan, was
shoot, let them burn.
Exactly. And the reason for this is sort of the hot stove policy with kids, right? Don't touch the hot stove. Don't touch the hot stove. Don't touch the hot. Fine, touch the hot stove. Let me know how it goes.
What I tell you, yeah.
And that's basically where we're at with people in politics, right? Is it's okay, it's acceptable to be permissive of people who say they're violent socialist revolutionaries being in your government in a handful of places in this country. And, well, what did you think violent socialist revolutionaries were going to, like, don't touch the hot stove. What are you doing? You know?
Yeah. It's almost like you got to let it, but even that's a weird middle ground, because it's, how about we just let them burn their thing down and we don't go in with force, don't give them the headline they want. But then it's like, well, but then what's the social responsibility to the people in that city where they're like, hey, why aren't you shutting this down? It's weird.
There are a couple major outputs I would happily violate the don't shoot, let them burn policy for. If Seattle recalls its entire city government and says, look, we don't even know who to put there right now because we've just been letting this go on for a while. Dear feds, you want to come help us out? We got together and we all, I don't know, with a 60% vote, we recalled the mayor and the city council of all these crazy people. Can you just, until we figure this out, come down here and help us out? Yeah, by all means, go down there, help them out. But if they're not going to do that, if they're not going to stand up for themselves, and even that kind of, not like, I'm not saying they should go out and, start right-wing death squads or anything. No, none of that. But if they can't stand up for themselves in even this fairly basic way, in a political sense, where you just go, you know what? You've been letting the city burn for 100 days. I didn't have a high bar for you, but this is below it. Get out,
Yeah, you're right. If they can't even get together, and then maybe it's like, don't shoot, let them burn. Or like, you'll learn, or you don't have to. You can just, easier said than done. But take your business out of there. You're a big corporation. Yeah, they're really gonna, those Apple stores that got burned down. Yeah, they're really gonna be like, I can't wait to reopen that store with $14 million of merch in there.
Again,
you don't think that a $2 trillion valued corporation, they haven't figured out their numbers and go, that's not good.
That store needs to be open for 171 years to have made this worth it. Let's open in the city next door. You know, the one with the cops that do their job.
They don't give a fuck. They're just like, they just want money. They want money and nothing more, which I think is fucking fantastic. I don't say that as an insult. People are like, all they want is money. And I'm like, I know, right? They put it all on the table. They tell you who they are, right?
You do a lot of working for free? Because I don't.
Yeah, exactly. It's you remember The Onion? There was one of their favorite thing is like Al Qaeda very upset at delays for New World Trade Center construction. They're like, why are you not? They're like, why are you not burning? Or one of them comes on. There's like it's like we have conspiracy theorists like Bob Newman, and Bob's like, this was the Bush government, so Cheney and his cronies could get more oil. And they have like the head of the Taliban. He's like, this is not. We did this. We worked really hard to do this. And he's like, and they're like, why do you think the tower collapsed? The tower steel doesn't melt. And the terrorist guy goes, an airliner flew into the building. Why do you think it collapsed? But point is the guy goes, this was Bush and his cronies because they just wanted to make money. And the Taliban guy goes, Bush's administration is a den of jackals. That we have in common. But that line I was thinking of corporations. It's like they're a den of jackals. But I'm like, they don't hide it. We want money. I'm like, I get it. Hey, you're telling me what I'm getting. Like, I get it. You're an honest hooker. But like, they're not. At what point is it? You know, don't touch the hot stove. Like, you got to leave then, or you got to say something.
Right. And make no mistake, in the world of leaving, a lot of them are. And I get boy, do I get it feels like nobody else here can or will or wants to stand up and say this is wrong.
Yeah.
But one of the very basic realities of that sort of thing is quite literally one person stands up and goes, hey, how about we recall the mayor? And I guarantee you'll have thousands of signatures in 24 hours.
Yeah.
You know, wait a minute, we're recalling the mayor. Why are we recalling? Oh, because the next mayor, the only job requirement is don't let the city burn.
Not even that.
Sold.
You don't even have to do anything. Just here's another one. Just don't defund the cops.
Weird.
Imagine if that was like your threshold. What? Just don't sign this thing that says defund. Just don't sign it. Just don't. That's it. Just don't do it. I mean that's what you do.
I don't have a high bar for you. All I'm saying, right? You know, and this is the thing, because we are starting to see where politics can get actually dangerous in this, right?
Yeah. So,
you know, if you are to take this out of the realm of reality for a minute and be just a little bit ridiculous, you know, if you've got Al Capone in your city and he's running the city and he's just shooting people in the streets, and I know for all of you who are very attached to historical accuracy, Al Capone wasn't actually that dangerous and Machine Gun Kelly didn't kill that many people, but let's say it's what Hollywood says it is, where somebody's getting gunned down in the street every 5 minutes, and you go to the mayor and you're like, yeah, but have you considered I like Italian food, so we're just going to leave it alone? You know, maybe it's time to get rid of the mayor, right?
Yeah.
And it's as ridiculous as that sounds, it's almost a parallel of what we have here, right? And quite literally, you know, the mayor of, I think it was Seattle, maybe Portland, and there have been quite a few of them actually, but, you know, riots come to their house and all of a sudden it's time to shut down riots. Like, well, the whole rest of the city can burn, but if you burn my house, now it's a problem. And these are the kind of people that, like, look, when life's good, kind of who cares who the mayor is, right? You know, crime's a little bit higher this year. They got a 71-point plan to turn that down. All right, sounds like they're working on it. But, you know, hey, 25% of the city burned in the past month. Like, okay, no 71-point plans. 1-point plan. Stop that. Yeah. You know.
But it's insane because it's like, what was that? I forget who the fuck it was. It was some famous guy with money. I know that really narrows it down. It was like right when the riots were starting, and he was like, "Hell yeah, bring it to him." And then it was like, it was like, go out, like send. You know, he's like, property destruction is peaceful protest, and he tweeted a picture of like the police station on. This is like the first week of riots. It was like, this is justice. But then they came to this guy's gated community, and he was like, "Where are the police stopping these animals?" It was the same guy. Yeah, it's kill all of them, not me. It's just
right. I meant everybody else.
Exactly. It's a weird. It's like, what is the point? So you almost can't hand it to them. Like, you can't go in and crush. Not, don't shoot, let them burn. But the weird, I always got to remember this is like, this isn't all. If this is all happening in a vacuum, there's just island America and just nothing but ocean, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's just, I could see where you're like, yeah, don't shoot, let them burn. But like all things, it's a gray area because we're not in a vacuum. There's a great book I think you would like, called The Dawn of the Code War. By book, I mean audiobook. I don't fucking read. I listen to So people always ask me, like, dude, how are you so well read? You can't see it.
Push the play button.
There's a 4K TV right here. I play games that I've played before a million times that I don't need to learn, and I mute it and I listen to audiobooks. That's how I learn. So I'm driving around Grand Theft Auto, just fucking shooting people, lighting people on fire. And it's like, FDR first went to like elementary school at Groton, Connecticut. And I'm like, interesting. Meanwhile, mowing people down. Point being, so a great book you would like is Dawn of the Code War. And it's all about the kind of beginning of hacking. Point being is like, none of this, or Stealth War by Brigadier General Robert Spalding, none of this is happening in a vacuum. So like, there's the CCP, there's CCP, what are the big four? CCP, Iran, North Korea, and Russia. If you don't think that they all are getting a fucking chubby,
watching the country burn. Oh, they are,
because goddamn well that's literally Dale and Ted-Eye, they can't legally acknowledge it. They're in the Special Activities Division, which they recruit from Delta and Dev Group, right? These are the if anyone's ever played Black Ops before it gets redacted on the left side of the screen at the beginning of the mission, what are the numbers? It always says Special Activities Division. Dale and Ted-Eye were in that. They can't legally acknowledge that though. That's what we do in other places, is foment this shit, right?
Well, I mean, that's why the Green Berets exist.
Yeah.
Right. It's like their sole job. So
literally, like, what are you going to do? Well, like, we'll feed you and clothe you. Just go fuck up.
Burn some things down.
We're not going to drop bombs. Have we evolved past bombs? No, we found a way more efficient way. Get them to blow each other.
Oh, yeah. Right, like we ship in some cheap foreign military equipment, and they'll use it.
Hey, look, I wouldn't go to this port, but there might be a Connex box with a bunch of AKs with no serial numbers.
Right. Who knew?
Bay of Pigs. That was weird. What a weird thing. But so we live in that world though. So there's not. And I tend to take the Mike Baker view, the ex-CIA guy that's been on Rogan. He's like, we're not perfect. He's like, I'm not even going to try to pretend that America's perfect. But he's like, out of all the potential world powers, I think we're the least bad. So I'd rather us be in charge because contrary to what everyone wants to believe, it's a zero-sum world. And he's like, it is.
Right up until somebody is running around the globe saying play fair. And then you start to get away from zero-sum world. But as long as what you have is global powers that are running around going, hey, how much can I gobble up? Then it is. And your burgeoning little society that is just getting off the ground, that looks like it would be a great tax base for the nearest world power, is getting taken over.
Oh, wow. You really should read. Fuck Dawn of the Code War. You should read Stealth War. I had that guy on, Brigadier General Robert Spalding.
Yeah.
Obama's National Security Council. Yeah, episode 160. He flew B-2 bombers, dude. This guy is legit.
Your capability to remember the titles of things that you have put out is incredible. I don't remember the name of streams that I put out last week.
Dude, I've had people tell me that, like, dude, you're the smartest dumb person I know. You're one of them gifted morons. Point being, thank you. Mismatching socks. Meanwhile, let me tell you how to solve the world's fusion problems. But that book, dude, you would really like, because just kind of the flavor in which you're talking. But dude, we don't live, but he talks about that, the Belt and Road Initiative. It's like, He's like, China goes into a port in South America that's their Cuba. It's only like 500 miles from us. They go in there. Yeah, they're burgeoning little society. Here's wherever, fucking whateverville, and we've got this, and we want to. And China comes in. And it's like, hey, here's a bunch of free 9th generation cell phones. Here's here's 5G optic fiber. We're going to pave everything. We're going to put in a port. We're going to let you use the CCCC. It's like there's 4 C's, but they're shipbuilding. We're going to give you free oil and everything. We might park like a frigate here every once in a while. Not often, but just every once in a while. And so,
oh yeah.
But if you don't think that that's happening, so that being said, I remember I asked Dale. I was like, Dale, is Chop Chad, whatever the fuck it is. I was like, is that a forward operating base for China? And Dale's pretty like, I don't care, like I'll kill them all. I'm like, all right, like, dial back a little bit. You're at 11, love the energy. Let's bring it back.
Just reel it in just a hair.
Like, let's bring it back to a 7. It's 9 a.m. Like, But if you don't think that, and that's not a conspiracy because we do that overseas. If you don't think there's someone behind BLM and Antifa, and just asterisk real quick, that doesn't mean that I'm against. And I have my black friend Aaron on here all the time. Went to med school, works at NASA. We talk about this all the time. He's my friend that we disagree politically. We argue for 5 minutes, then we get back to aliens and NASA. Right? That's right. That's the arguments you can have. But so that's not to say that like BLM. I get the core movement. Like it's a wonderful thing. Unarmed black guys getting shot. Yeah.
This is the thing, right? So basically, zero people.
Sorry, let me end that rant.
Sure.
If you don't think that something has been hijacked with foreign funding, you're fucking moron. That was the end of that whole fucking word vomit. Is
fair enough.
There's an outside power.
Well, this is the thing, right? Is that basically zero people are running around saying Black lives don't matter, and okay, I'm sure that somebody somewhere has said it, and it's not actually zero, but it is a statistical zero. Yeah. And no one cares about these people. Like, oh, that's great. You have an opinion that can get the hell out of here because no one cares about it.
Yeah.
And would it be an ideal situation if, I don't know, you go, a cop comes to arrest you and you put out the hands and you get a nice new set of bracelets and then you go to jail and then by the afternoon they figure out it was all a big mistake and you get let go or, you get charged accordingly or what have you. Sure. But one of the things that there have been riots over in this is a guy fighting 2 cops at the same time, throwing them off, stealing one of their tasers and tasing one of them, and then one of the cops shoots him. Now, at that point, if the cop can't shoot you there, I want to know where the cop can shoot you. Yeah. And it's the same thing with the like, hey, this guy was shooting at us, but then he ran out of ammo because apparently the cops are supposed to count their bullets or something while they're receiving fire, I guess. And so then the cop shot him. And so he was effectively unarmed. And I'm like, no, if you pick up a pistol and you dump a mag at a cop, I don't care if you didn't have any more ammo. Does the cop have an x-ray of you that says you don't have any more, another mag in your pocket or something? Like, come on. At some point, yes, the cops should be allowed to use lethal force. And what has become pretty self-evident here is that they don't think so. There is no time in which a cop can use lethal force, and it's acceptable. Yeah. And at that point, like, well, one, you're never going to have cops. Ever, which, for the points on my licenses, I'm sure will be handy. On the other hand, there's some times where it'd be nice to call a cop. Like, hey, there's a guy in my front yard with a gun. You want to like come do something about that?
Yeah. It's and it's if you can't, and again, that kind of shows the sort of video gameization of the world of calling a medic. I mean, he's out of ammo. Is that not directly from like the M1 Garand? Did you hear the ping? He's out. Like,
yeah, right.
Like, what is that? Like, and what adrenaline dump allows you to go, I think he's out of ammo now, versus like, fuck this, I'm going home to my wife and kids. I'm going to make a Picasso painting on the wall with his brains, right?
Yeah.
Like, fuck that guy.
This, you get the very similar things with knives, right? Oh, he just had a knife. Like, what? I'll tell you what, you come down, I'll stab you, and we'll find out whether or not knives are dangerous weapons. I don't know. What do you think?
It's just a knife, dude. Why do we have to nuke them? All they had were planes. It's like, it's this, but it's almost like, I don't know what's a good way to word it. It'd be like if you have if there was like a KGB spy in the CIA and, right? And like, how would you find out he's a spy? You'd be like, hey man, do you want to go like look in the vault? Like, we shouldn't be there. But you're a little drunk on a Friday night, and every once in a while the lower tier guys, they go in the vault and they try to find the fucking aliens. Oh, I can't find it. Whatever. But the one new guy whose name just happens to be Ivan is like, we should totally fucking look at the thermonuclear. LOL, that would be crazy. LOL, you know. It's like,
I'm sure it's going to go down exactly like that.
Yeah, right. That's exactly how it went down. You know, it's like the creepy text, like, "Oh my god, like we should definitely have sex." Just kidding, but what if? Right? It's like, you know, it's like, right? There's always like a weird, like, why did you really cared about that one? You know, like an undercover cop, like, man, we should totally go out tonight. Yeah, let's go get laid. We should totally get laid and smoke some marijuana.
Yeah, right.
We should totally have at least 2 beers and then drive.
Yeah.
You know, it's like saying it loud.
If you haven't cracked your 3rd beer in less than 2 hours, you're not having fun.
Yeah, it's like, man, we should definitely go snort some cocaine hydrochloride. Right? You know, we should definitely do that. It's like a weird, right? It's almost like they blow their cover, the mask falls off. To me, that's to me, that is what I see with Black Lives Matter. Okay, I get it. Sure, civil movement. I get it. You know, none of them are perfect, but sure, I don't think that's a bad thing. Bring attention to people getting shot. Sure, let's do it. You know, well, George Floyd's on fentanyl. Sure, well, let's address fentanyl. Like, I get it. Like, let's be level-headed about this. But it almost seems a little undercover cop. It almost seems a little Chinese, Iranian influence when it's like, Black Lives Matter. Hell yeah. Anti-Trump. Hell yeah. Defund the police.
Did I mention dissolve the nuclear family?
That was
in their charter for a while.
Not even that. We should. No, it would be totally fucking hilarious if we own Trump by dissolving the nuclear family. You know, next
right?
thing like, you shut down the Pentagon. You know, we should totally loosen up trade tariffs.
Dissolve the military. Are we?
But that's the next.
You know what? But only on the West Coast, specifically in favored Chinese port number 7. I mean,
totally take down the firewalls around Lockheed Martin. That would own the Republicans, right?
Right. Exactly. And this, you know, have you considered that you know, no one should be allowed to have any internet security of any variety? Any encryption is bad. Like, wait a minute.
What would really piss off Trump is if we leaked all the plans for the nuclear reactors on the aircraft carriers. He would be so angry about that. Black Lives Matter, but we should do that too, right? It's like, who are you? Why you look Chinese? Like I'm Black Lives Matter, fucking, you know. But
I wish that this was wholly unreasonable.
But if you can go from Black Lives Matter to defund the police, that's no different than the evolution of screaming with umbrellas to having the 50-gallon drums. It's an evolution. Yeah. Take 10 years down the road. 4 years ago it was, we have a baby balloon of Trump, and now it's let's burn down Wendy's and shoot black cops, calling them Uncle Tom. In 2030, why isn't there going to be weirdly specific defund the F-35, right?
Right. Well,
they're just getting already. But
so I mean, you know, the F-22.
Yeah, exactly. But it's already getting like weirder and bolder, right? It's like, you know, it's like we should definitely, you know, we should go out for drinks and fuck, right? It's like a real, you know, you're saying it perfectly. We should defund the police. We should fucking declassify the schematics of the nuclear the door bunkers by the Mosler Safe Company on NORAD.
It really is. You know, we should Netflix and chill. And have a threesome.
It goes to 100 really quick. We should fucking, you know, justice for George Floyd. Take down the Faraday cage on Air Force One.
I mean, like, at this point,
it's the mask slips.
The thing. Oh man. So. I can't imagine that you haven't, but I know Call of Duty included Yuri in the Bezmenov in the most recent.
Yeah.
Right. So have you seen the big long talks of Yuri?
I have it bookmarked and I need to watch it. I have like an hour and a half thing of him that I've sadly have not watched yet, but I need to.
So. Somewhere or another, I probably have like the 3-hour thing, but this is the kind of place where, as ridiculous as this is going to sound, I spend a lot of time. So this is Mao's Little Red Book. Mm-hmm. This lives on my desk. This is a compilation of Mao quotes, supposedly approved by Mao, printed in the U.S. in 1961, the first time. And he almost outlines Black Lives Matter in 1938.
Jesus.
And so you watch Yuri talk about what it takes to disassemble a society. You watch Mao talk about how they effectively need to create Black Lives Matter in 38. I mean,
it gets a little hairy.
Yeah, and after a certain point, the coincidences stack up too much. And in the world of are these funded, it has become less popular as time has gone on. But there have long been people documenting, buses full of people going to Black Lives Matter events, and very obviously moved in from somewhere else. When Kenosha happened, it was 8 hours, almost to the minute, that guy was shot, there was a riot. Now, for those that are familiar with such things, that's rapid response team time if you don't have airplanes, right?
Yeah.
If you have to get people together in a with quick reaction force kind of way, everybody meet here, everybody get in the trucks, everybody go within this circle. We have an 8-hour response time, and that was wild.
Yeah,
because it was very obviously people from not around there the first night in Kenosha, and that should be worrying, because that's
organization. That's money. Who's behind
and it? Exactly right, because if you have ever so much as organized like a carpool, right? The amount of money that goes into things like a carpool for a job, right? So you're doing your 32 cents a mile or 45 for the feds or whatever, right? If you've ever so much as organized a carpool, you start to notice the money adds up real quick. And this has been ongoing for 4 months now. So somebody is shelling out some cash. Now,
serious fucking dough.
Right. Guaranteedly by this point, some of these are organic, right? But for Kenosha specifically does not look organic at all. And I know somebody will go, well, but the guys that Rittenhouse killed were from the ish local area. Yeah, but that was days into it, right? 2 days in, 3 days in, something like that.
Yeah.
But 8 hours later, and you have a force of hundreds of people there. That's a lot of bodies to move. That's a lot of food to have. I mean, it's a lot of things to get together, and it doesn't sound like much, but it really is.
Yeah, and if it was organic, then that would imply that the entire nation feels like that. In which case, you would see the entire nation, every city, doing this.
Oh yeah,
and it's very. I mean, the weirdest. I remember the morning after Trump won. I remember I was at my grandma's house, late great grandma, rest in peace, Mimi. But I remember it was the next morning. I was like, vividly remember I was like sitting there, I was looking at the TV, and I was like, wasn't really paying attention, but it was like an aerial shot of like Chicago and then like New York, and it was all these people rioting. And as someone that does graphic design, I was like, they all have. This is probably just the weaponized autism. I was like, they all have matching signs.
Yeah,
that's the same Adobe Illustrator file that has the same like borders, that has the same font.
Yeah,
and that's on like nice like printed, like sturdy, that looks like waterproof cardboard.
Well, it was where did riots just kick off? I forget. Louisville. And there is a video.
I gotta piss. Keep talking. I have a bladder of a fucking pregnant woman. Can you feel that? Can you feel the air from me?
Sure. So
welcome to Doncast.
I get the feeling that I will be repeating a lot of this, but Louisville just kicked off, or Louisville, or however you say it. And one of the first videos to come out of Louisville was somebody unloading a U-Haul full of pre-made signs. And again, in the world of just little tiny things that start to add up, to get, and it looked like something like a 16, 12, whatever, fairly small U-Haul, but it was a whole lot of riot just add U-Haul truck. And it's the kind of thing that somebody had to have organized quite a bit beforehand. Now, with Louisville, we sort of knew that they were going to announce things. They telegraphed it by saying they were declaring a state of emergency before they actually announced what was going on with Breonna Taylor. But no less, what are we talking here? With a day or two, I forget which it was, they had that much prep time, and all of a sudden, within a single day, they have U-Haul trucks full of stuff. There is indeed a group of people who make food called Riot Ribs. I believe they have rebranded since, but for a while, they would just take out barbecues out to these riots and make ribs for hours to feed the rioters. And they would have people ship them in ribs and all kinds of stuff like that. And they somehow or another just magically ended up with enough food to feed people who were out there rioting. And it's a lot of little resources to come from kind of all over the place. And I have gotten a little bit of, well, it could just be crowdfunded. Riot Ribs in particular stopped doing crowdfunding. They stopped accepting crowdfunding. They would only take direct food donations. And so they would get people who show up with a quarter-ton pickup full of ribs and just throw them out the back at these people who were making food for rioters. And so when you get things like for the sake of the portion for your tiny bladder, when you get things like the U-Haul truck full of signs showing up in Louisville, the minute the Breonna Taylor, what's it called? PR thing happened, right? Press conference. There we go. Jesus. The moment the press conference happens, a U-Haul truck opens up. Look, there's signs. Look, there's guys with Antifa clothes. And just like that, there's no way it could have gotten there in just minutes. There's no way you could have loaded the truck in just minutes. There was preparation. There was organization. This was always going to happen, no matter what they said.
Not only that, no matter what city.
Yeah.
Which means there are points. There are, like Amazon warehouses. there are like points. Right?
Unironically, either that or they just own every laser printer in the nation.
Yeah. Or they are just like incredibly well fucking organized and this is organic. But if that was the case, the entire nation would reflect that. If these people do this, then they could fucking take the White House, right?
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, if you had 100 million people on board with this, with, the defund the police, with Black Lives Matter's more radical agenda, as opposed to maybe the cops shouldn't shoot so many people, which you can get into the factual debate all you want. No one, as far as I know, is advocating the cops shoot everybody or even substantially more people or anything like that. I know there was the one cop who said we probably don't shoot enough black people, but well, so his point was that cops are worried about shooting black people for no reason whatsoever. And so they put themselves at higher risk when dealing with black people than they would with other people, because if you shoot a black person, you're going to be a national headline and your career's ruined. And so they take too much risk when dealing with black people. They should have shot by that point.
Okay. All right. Well, that sounds much better. Then.
Yeah, it almost sounds rational if you don't get what everybody just printed as a headline.
You don't just take the soundbite.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I'm ready to kill him. I got my work ready.
Right. I think what we should do is go down to the hood with a 240 and just open up. No one is saying this. All right.
Yeah. You know what happens when if whites are, I have never and I lived in Valdosta, Georgia, dude. I lived in Valdosta, my friend there, my fraternity, Grant, when his great grandpa died, he had this monogrammed chest at the foot of his bed that no one was ever allowed to look into, not even his wife, and it had just been there for 80 years. And when he died, and his will was you can open this. And they opened it. It turned out he was the fucking Grand Dragon. Yeah.
Well, that escalated quickly.
I know, right? That fucking went from 0 to 100 real quick. You can look it up. Last name Merritt. So that's where I went to school for 2 years, Valdosta, Georgia. But even there, even Grant was yeah, man, fuck him. There was racism. I've said that on this podcast before. Yeah, there's racism, but I have never the amount of white supremacy that allegedly exists in this nation.
Where?
I mean, where it's like radical white supremacists, like, you know, when there is this many people, that's when you fucking have like the Third Reich. That's when they create.
Yes.
They don't riot when they get angry. It's eerily efficient. There's trains and camps and serial numbers. All right, if that was happening, you'd know. And
Exactly.
I'm not saying that in any sort of justification. It's just the amount of white supremacy that allegedly exists.
Oh yeah.
No.
This is the problem, is that white supremacy, for normal human beings, white supremacy means people who think white people are better than everybody else, right? I mean, that white supremacy, it doesn't seem like there's that much to fuck up here. And yet, if you listen to the people who are worried about white supremacy, they're kind of white supremacists, just not in the way that everybody acts like, right? And so, no, it doesn't matter what white people do; they just succeed. Like, do they? Because like, I've had a few failures in my life.
That is, yeah. White people only have to try; they just get into law school. That's kind of sounds right.
Really?
It's almost like making fun of someone because you have a crush on them. You're like, fuck her, she's beautiful and smart. Right? You know, it's Tony Moon, the OG rooftop Korean. He was like, man, it sucks being Asian because they're just like, oh, you're smart. And I'm like, I'm a moron. He's like, I grew up listening to Eazy-E and drinking 40s. He's like, I don't know how I'm still alive. He's like, I just happen to be like a mortgage salesman now. He's like, I shouldn't be here. But, you know, he's like, Asian people, I was like, at 19, he's like, I wasn't a doctor at 19. I was on top of a grocery store in South Central LA with a rifle.
Well, yeah, right, with a MAC-10.
Yeah, exactly. He's like, I don't, where are these smart Asian people? He's like, I
don't know where they are, but they sound great.
One of my my pre-med black friends in college was like, man, I fucking hate the stereotype that we have big dicks. He's like, do you know how often you can just like, they don't say it, but it's written, you know, after a night at the bars, or me and some rando go home. And he's like, and I just have like a dick that's no different than yours. He's like, it's just this kind of look of disappointment. And he's like, I fucking hate that stereotype. He's like, you have it good because there's no expectation.
Right. If you're beyond this, you're golden.
Yeah. He's like, well, they bring me home thinking that I'm just like swinging from the knees. And he's like, and I'm just like, God damn it. Like, yeah, you're right. That is kind of like a weird, like, yeah, that girl's so stupid. I bet she fucking couldn't even wear the ring I'd buy her.
Yeah, right. Right.
Fucking white people, they're just always succeeding and building trillion-dollar businesses. It's like,
exactly. Like, wait. I don't know if you know this, but like, some of the like really important people in the world are black.
Yeah.
So wait a minute.
Yeah.
In the world of the white supremacists they describe, though, you know, oh, the Ku Klux Klan. As far as I can tell, the Ku Klux Klan is 10,000 people. Maybe let's go big and say 20,000 people in a nation of 330 to 360 million. I mean, and what's worse is, you know, for a fact they're spread across the country because they had a rally a handful of years ago in Los Angeles, where, by the way, they just got their ass kicked. That's what happened. And then at the same time, there's the couple of them over somewhere in the Midwest that are the ones that give interviews all the time.
Yeah.
So you know they're spread across the country. So 20,000 people spread across the country, probably the biggest, most reasonable number you could have attached to them. That's who we're terrified of. And by the way, they don't do anything. They sit around and go, "What people are great," and that's it.
and not only that, these aren't this fictional fucking LARPing white supremacist enemies where you're thinking of these like 6'4" German Aryan guys who are on meth that can blitzkrieg a nation. No, these are the people that like us fellow white people are making fun of, right? You don't even have to look at a picture, but you already know what they look like in your head, right?
Oh yeah, and they do, right? Because I watched the interviews. Because
5 feet tall, 5 feet wide, fucking 2 teeth, like,
yes. Yeah, unironically, fat wife in the background with the kid who looks like he got kicked in the head by a mule. Yeah, I mean, it is exactly the stereotype that you think it is. The guys who showed up in Los Angeles were basically the same thing. There were a couple of them that were about as fit as I am, which, you know, I mean, there's plenty of me to go around, is all I'm saying. You know, these are the terrifying white supremacists that we're all crapping our pants over. And I'm like, guys, seriously, if they're okay, I would highly recommend against going to the fat meth-addled redneck white supremacist house and trying to get on his property. He's going to shoot you. But look, to be fair, if I lived out in the middle of the woods and you were trying to kick in the front door of my property, I would shoot you.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah. It's like these are not. Yeah. Like, these are like, don't worry, like, they're shit because they think that I am like a traitor to their race. I'm like, it's fine.
Oh,
like,
man.
we all agree. Just let them.
There's only 180 million traitors to their race. Just ask them; they'll tell you.
Yeah.
Right? These people are nothing. They have not. And right along with that, right? So some guy ran on the Republican ticket as a white supremacist a couple of years ago, right, in 2018, and so the Republican Party was like, you need to take that R away from your name because we're not giving it to you. And he was like, you can't stop me. And he got like one vote, which was probably from him. And, you know, lost. And they were like, oh my God, the white supremacists are making their way back into politics. And no, they're not. No one, the entire constituency was just took one look at that and went, no. You know?
No.
And,
period. No.
It's just not out there, right? And the equivalent part of this is the hate crime hoaxes, which are just, oh my, I don't know how many more backward swastikas I can see. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, they're so insane. Just the idea that, like, yeah, what was the Jussie Smollett? They came at me wearing MAGA hats, saying this is MAGA country with a noose
in Chicago.
I remember Rogan was talking to Tim Dillon about that. He was like, who the fuck in the city limits of Chicago even owns a rope?
Or a MAGA hat.
Oh, yeah, but he was like, just period. Who the fuck has a rope? You have like an iPad, a nice apartment. Everything you do is online. It's just like, you're in a city. Who the fuck has rope?
Right?
Other than like a fire department for whatever reason. On tour.
The rock climbing guys. That's who has rope. You know?
And they're not in Chicago.
Exactly.
But it's apparently there's some fucking like, there's some like 1880s guys walking around just like some Django Unchained, like, hey.
Oh, exactly. They jumped out of their horse-drawn carriage and said, "This is MAGA country."
Yeah, exactly. And they're reporting back to Hitler on top of his palace in a marble throne, like, bring me more blood.
Because he made it to Venezuela or whatever it was after World War II.
Exactly. Dude, I had on last week. I had on Norman Ohler, who's an author of the book Blitzed. It's called Blitzed: The History of Drugs in the Third Reich. Fucking insane, dude. Hitler makes Hunter S. Thompson look like a teetotaler.
Oh yeah,
dude.
Oh yeah. In
the morning.
There were some reports from I think the army, because they were dealing with the Nazis most often, and they were talking about you roll some Germans or something, and they just have pounds of methamphetamines.
Yeah,
like no food, but a whole week's worth of meth supply.
Oh, dude, some of the fucking report. It's a great book. I'm not bullshitting you. I listened to it like 6 times in a row before I had this guy on. Dude, some of the reports from the front lines. It's just like, you can tell these guys are fucking cracked out when they're writing their journals. Yeah, and they're like, we just drove the tank for like 44 straight hours. Hoorah! We didn't have any lunch, but we did have chocolate one day. That was great. Or like from the Luftwaffe, when they're like, I'm flying over London at 2 a.m. It's dark, and it starts as like a very gentlemanly like. He's like, yes, I'm the commander. I cannot be tired. That would not be fitting. No, would. You're like, oh, okay. But he goes, but then I pulled out like a little box of 4 tablets of Pervitin. It's like, so I took it. And he's like, yep. He's like, do you think the exact words are, engine is thrumming just fine. Heartbeat is thundering in my ears. Why is the night sky so bright? I can hardly bear the brilliance. 5 minutes earlier, he's like, I can't see anything.
You may have taken just a little much.
He was supposed to take 1. Apparently, he took 5. But he's just like, these. Yeah. Or one of the German guys, he's like, I think it was Hans Guderian. He was like, and I didn't know this, but contrary to common belief, is the Blitzkrieg actually didn't set out as the Blitzkrieg. They said it was more something that happened in hindsight. They realized it was a Blitzkrieg. It's like it was in the hindsight you saw like, oh, that's what this was, but it wasn't set out as we're gonna do this. Because apparently at the beginning, before that they called it Pervitin, and that was their little like meth like Mentos. But you would take these, and but before they started taking these, and they weren't even distributed by the army, by the Wehrmacht. They actually had to just go buy them out from the pharmacies. So it wasn't even like this nationalist thing. But the head of like the tank, not Rommel, but another guy named Hans Guderian, he goes, you must stay awake for 48 hours if like the German cause calls for it. And then a couple of weeks later, and it's almost like a principal like scolding, but he's also not that angry. He goes, I told you to stay awake for 48 hours. You didn't sleep for 17 days. But like that was the quote. It was fucking insane. But like apparently Rommel would just like he'd have his cap on backwards, and they'd just be driving until his tank treads were greased with blood. They said he'd be driving. They'd be out in the middle of the field in the middle of the night, and they'd just be firing all barrels. There'd be no towns for 100 miles, but they'd just be in circles, just like screaming, "I am the berserker!" Like insane shit. I mean, dude, the shit they were doing was insane. If it wasn't the Nazis, it'd almost be like a funny, like old school type movie, like an Animal House. But it's the Nazis.
Well, I mean, if they're lighting off ammo 100 miles from the nearest town, that seems hilarious to me, because then they can't shoot it at people.
But the thing is apparently they'd show up to like bases. There'd be like a whatever, like a Polish base. They'd be like, and the only way you could take this is as the base was set up, so there was 1,000 yards of nothing but grass. So suicide. You can't get down there.
Yeah.
But the tanks would just run over, just firing in all directions. Somewhere, barely even hitting it. Some were going like 1,000 feet. It was like, what the fuck? But because it was so contrary to tactics, the Polish. That's when the soldiers would just run, because they were like, it was almost like that. Like, wasn't there some general back in like BC who he knew he couldn't defeat the incoming army, so he sat on like the gates of the city playing the flute or something? Do you know that story?
I don't know about playing the flute, but there's a few things that go right along those lines.
Point is he just kind of gambles it all because he knows they're fucked, and the incoming people are like, this dude is playing it way too cool, and so they leave. The ultimate slights. But apparently these Polish guys were like, if they're just running over the hills at 3 p.m. on a sunny day,
they've got to have us like 10-1 and get out of here quick.
And not only that, we've been able to hear them firing for the last 8 hours in the day. And we know there's nothing but marshland, and people are like, hey, they're just like shooting at trees. But they've been doing it, and like, we have reports going back 7 days of these same people. They're like, oh, this
just being up, cracked out, shooting at stuff.
Yeah, but they're like, this must just be the hammer of God coming.
So my understanding of the Blitzkrieg, by the way, is that it effectively came from insubordination. Some I don't know, like company-sized commander or something like that of tanks got told to post up somewhere and just wait there, and he got tired of waiting and just was like, hell with it, just rush them.
But dude, but that's not far off from the truth, man. Apparently their only reason why they couldn't get Rommel to stop is because he was just so high on Pervitin. I'm not kidding, that he was just so high on Pervitin that wherever the generals back in wherever Berlin, when they'd send orders, by the time they got there, they'd be like, no, Rommel left an hour ago. So he'd send it to the next city over, and they're like, yeah, no, Rommel just tore through here doing like 80. And they're like, yeah, his tank was covered in blood, and they were just shooting. Like, where? Like, hey.
Everything.
They're like, how long have they been doing? Like 9 days. Like, all right, we'll fucking call ahead to fucking wherever. They call ahead, they'd be like, no, you just missed them.
Well, maybe it's better if you have to tone down somebody's aggressiveness. We'll go with that.
Yeah, but it's just fucking just flying by. apparently even when they called Hitler and they're like, we're at so and so, Hitler's like, you must be mistaken because that's over 1,200 miles. He's like, no, like I'm looking
That's where we are.
Apparently the guy on the radio was like literally like, no, I'm looking at the Eiffel Tower. And they're like, but even Hitler was like, what the fuck? That's the thing is like Hitler was scared because he was like, this isn't real. This can't actually be happening.
Well, I mean, that's the outrun the supply lines in the extreme.
Yeah.
So,
it's just some of the reports are like, they're like, how is it? They're just, it's like everyone is awake. We're in a perfect line, and it's always written in everything. Slight euphoria, but we're doing good. It's like, no, it's mad.
After a certain amount of time, it's just the drugs, dude. It's just the drugs.
Well, they couldn't tell. They're like, it's weird because like these guys are fine, but when they go swimming in the Atlantic, they start having heart attacks. But they're like, aside from that, they're fine. And it's like,
wait a minute, that could be a problem that you might want to look into.
It's insane, dude. And it's just. And they're just like, yeah, everything else is good. I mean, I've only had 2 Hershey's Kisses in the last 19 days, but aside from that, we're doing great, man. We fired so many rounds that this tank barrel, which should last for a decade, we burned through in 3 days. But aside from that,
it's fine. It's fine.
I'm sure they probably would have tried to. Oh yeah, and they wouldn't even. How are they supposed to put tanks over rivers and shit? What was like the
little bridge fording things or portable bridge things?
Yeah. Apparently Rommel wasn't waiting for those. So what he would do is they would just go find anything they could and make pontoons. So they'd kind of like put a bunch of speedboats, maybe a yacht, a fishing boat together. They'd be like, it's floating. They'd kind of put one Tiger out on it. And they said that you could put more tanks and you knew when you had too many tanks because it'd start to sink. So you'd back one off. Then you'd be like, we got them all, go. They push it over. So it was just like a fishing boat, like a yacht, maybe a couple of like plastic buckets. They just put them under the tanks.
Well, I mean, after you get the first set across, at least they could help tow.
Eyes, this fucking pupils, the monsters just high as fuck.
Oh man. See. Here we are yelling at our military about everything.
I know, dude. Fucking, and some of there's a drug they had it was that towards the end of the war when shit was just not working. They had this. They wanted to step it up because they realized that Pervitin wasn't strong enough, right? So they wanted something. So they created something called D9. They had 12 different drugs. Drug 1, drug 2 through drug 12. So they did. And it's terrible how they did it. They'd just take Jews in Auschwitz and they put bricks in their backpack and tell them to just walk around a track until you died. And apparently you could go for like 140 miles before you stopped. But like,
Jesus,
insane. But they didn't know any of these drugs. So what they did is they just took like, as Germans do, just the superlatives. D9, I don't want to fuck this up. So let me actually look it up. But they had these like mini U-boats. And that was supposed to be one of the Wunderweapons that would win the war. There were these U-boats, and it's basically as like a kamikaze torpedo, and you only needed 2 guys. And and it didn't work because on all the tests where they'd give them D9, 100%, 10 out of 10 of these, they'd be like, we're taking D9 and we're going to go. No one just came back. They went to the bottom of the ocean. They just died. I take that back. One group survived. There were 2 guys, and they didn't sleep for 7 days, and they came back. And they surrendered to the Germans, but it didn't make sense because they were German. But yeah, they surrendered.
That's a great success rate. Hey, look, we can just disappear some people, and the only 2 guys that live show up and surrender to us.
Fucking print it. But okay, I pulled it up. So D9. All right, so yeah, each tablet had 5 milligrams of oxycodone, 5 milligrams of cocaine, and 5 milligrams of crystal methamphetamine. And they would take 10 to 20 tablets per day.
God damn.
That's D9.
That's a hell of a habit you got there.
I'll text it to you right now. D9 is insane. And the reason you don't know about the other D1 through 8 is because those just killed everyone outright. So They were like, tow it back a little bit.
So maybe this was the success rate. This was the successful one. Hey, look, Bob lived beyond noon. Must be good.
E9, print it. It's just like, so dude, some of the quotes in the fucking book, dude. You hear Hitler, and he's like, you know, after Operation Valkyrie, that's when he started doing cocaine because it damaged his like sinuses, and they needed to clear it. So the Riesling, I think that was his name, Dr. Riesling. By the way, I know we've been going for 3 hours. Don't let me keep you. I feel like that's not the time to say it now. 3 hours later. You good to do this one for like fucking, I don't know, like 30 more minutes?
Yeah.
Is that too long?
No, that's fine.
Most guests go for like an hour. And I normally always say, hey, beforehand, I'm like, how long do you want to go so I don't keep you? But I realized 3 hours in, don't let me keep you.
Well, you know, at this point, I don't think 30 more minutes is going to matter much. Carry on.
Okay. I told you not to sleep for 2 days. By the way, Don, don't let me keep you too long.
I mean, you know, look, you stayed awake for 17. It's fine.
Yeah, I told you to go for 2 days. Where's Rommel? Yeah, no, you just missed him. Well, he had his hat on backwards, and their tank was covered in blood. Just drove.
I don't know what they were doing, but they looked like they were enjoying it.
I know. Yeah, they looked like they were having a great time. So with D9, oh fuck, what was I gonna say? No. So Hitler. So his sinuses were fucked up, and so he put cocaine into his nose because that actually is a topical solution to like open up like the blood vessels.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's how uppers work,
among others.
Yeah, right.
So Hitler went like, he goes, even when my nose is better, will you still put this in my nose, doctor? And the doctor, not his original physician, Dr. Theodor Morel, but this new guy was like, you know, he was like, fuck, he sees his salary going up. He's like, fuck yeah, you know, unless
hell yes.
Yeah, yes, mein Führer. But he was just like, you know, basically sure. But at one point, Hitler goes, in the book he goes, but Hitler did have one worry. And the exact quote from the doctor goes, and Hitler told me, but doctor, I do not want to become a cocaine addict. And the doctor goes, don't worry, cocaine addict, snort it. I'm placing it in your nose. And apparently, and Hitler reportedly nodded and said, good, I do not intend to become a cocaine addict. Who the fuck intends?
What a sales job, man.
Don't worry, I'm putting it in your nose.
You're not doing it, therefore it's good.
Yeah, I mean, it's that, or you probably just end up with a bullet in your head. So the doctor's like, "Fuck it, there's gotta ride this one out. Don't worry."
Well, yeah, there's the other thing, right? So you need to figure out a way to keep feeding me cocaine without getting me addicted to it, or at least so I don't think I'm addicted to it. And if you don't manage this, I'm going to shoot you. Yeah, you're not going to get addicted because I'm putting. Yeah, that's how it works.
That's how it is. But no, apparently that's what this guy was like. And then one day he didn't give it to him because he was like, "I'm worried." And Hitler like didn't go to any military meetings. And apparently, you know that like meme of like from Toy Story, like Sid like dropping like Woody, I don't want to play with you anymore.
Yeah,
it's just, you know, but it's, you know, it's like communists when they get their first job out of college. It's them dropping when they get their first salary, when they get their first big boy salary, it's them dropping the Communist Manifesto. I don't want to play with you anymore.
Yep.
But it's Hitler did the original I don't want to play with you anymore with Operation Barbarossa. Apparently, quote, after he didn't get his cocaine, the generals asked him to come to the meeting about Operation Barbarossa, which wasn't going too well. And he said, I'm not interested anymore. The doctor went, oh, fuck. And he called him in and gave him cocaine. And at which point, Hitler, I shit you not, Hitler fell backwards unconscious. And so it's just the doctor and Hitler. And the doctor for like 30 seconds went, oh my God.
They're going to kill me now.
And then Hitler woke up and went, I feel great. And he was like, fuck good. But,
that was so close.
The doctor's went, fuck. But yeah. And so, and this is, Hitler apparently went up to his castle in like the mountains, one of his castles. He had all these fucking gay names for his castle. One, you know, Wolfschanze, Wolfsblair. He had another one, Werwolf. The one in the castle, the clouds. He called it like the Cloud Castle.
Yeah,
such a
castle
fucking,
in the clouds or something like that is how it translates. Yeah, Jesus.
such a fucking pussy. But like the quote that made me almost shit my pants, and I told Norman Ohler about this in the podcast, and he started laughing. I was like, amongst everything else in the book, all the other insanity, the one quote that really got me was, I think it was called Bergdorf. That was the cloud castle. But he went up to Bergdorf, just him and Eva Braun. Hitler, often high on Eucadol, which was oxycodone, where he could go up there and do three things. Get away from like the hustle and bustle of like the military command. All right. Leader, Camp David. Sure. Why not?
Sure.
He could observe ravens. All right. I don't know. Maybe the guy has an artistic side. I don't know.
Whatever you want to do.
3, he could impress Ava with his impersonations of the sounds of the machine guns.
He's like 5 years old.
That's what I said. And I was like, I thought he impressed her with his knowledge. No, apparently he used to go up to this mountain, fucking high as shit on Eucadol, going.
You know what this is. You know what this is. This is the Hitler stoner conversation right here, right? This is the 5 guys in college who are all just stoned out of their mind, who are like, bah.
Yeah, but Hitler used to go up there and go da 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 da, which just means that some generals had to have been like no one wanted to be the one to say like we're really taking orders from this guy because you'd be shot. But everyone just shut up and was kissing ass. But at one point, one of these, who's probably a general from World War I, right? One of these like 80-year-old guys is just walking in on Hitler, drooling, high on opiates with his tanks going. Right. I got an idea. We're gonna take over all of Russia. I know it's the winter, but fuck it.
Let's just do it. That dude is poking his own eye out really slowly. He's just, oh my God, you're in command of this war.
But not only that, so as the war went on, Morel, his main physician, Theodor Morel, not only would he give Hitler Pervitin meth before his meetings, generals would start coming up to him going, can you give me something to go deal with Hitler? So Hitler would go in and from his like back door, the Fuhrer door, whatever fucking gay thing he had, and Morel would give him his injection. But then the generals would come into him as Hitler was waiting in there, almost like a Zoom meeting, like he was waiting.
Right.
All the other generals used to come and he'd fucking hit them with opiates and meth. So everyone in the room would be high as a fucking kite.
Stoned out of their mind.
Hitler would be screaming and all the generals would just be zonked, drooling like.
That's cool, man.
Yeah.
Russia in the winter.
Let's do it. Just everyone.
This explains so many things, like how the Luftwaffe ended up being Hitler's pet toy. Like all the generals are in there, and they're like, "Bro, this is not just bomb the British. We just send tanks." And the Luftwaffe guy was the one guy who didn't get stoned that day, and he's like, "Can we just bomb them?" He's the only person with a coherent thought.
Fucking Bormann, dude, in the Luftwaffe headquarters. Apparently, they'd go in there. They said Bormann would be so high on morphine. They said he'd have on silk pants with silk bloomers, with a Celtic dagger on a belt. I'm not making this up. With makeup on and red fingernails. And they said you go in there, and I think the exact quote from one of the pilots was, "Our main job was just to save face and not laugh." He'd go in there and he'd be like, "We're gonna bomb Russia," and they'd be like, "Okay."
All right, like,
dude, this is the craziest. It's the craziest fucking book, dude. Hitler, he would have Morel because Hitler like was a vegetarian, but he still wanted like the strength of animals. So Morel would have like bulls slaughtered, and he'd grind up their testicles and shoot it into Hitler's veins. I'm not making this shit up, dude. It's the most.
No, I believe it. They were all about this weird occult shit like that, where you could do that kind of transference crap, and it would just work out well somehow, even though at no point does anyone explain it. They're like, so if you want to be powerful and strong, we're just going to grind up some bull's balls and shoot them into your arm. And you're powerful and strong. and they just took it as gospel. And there's a bunch of weird, just complete nonsense like that. I mean, it's quite literally where we got Red Skull from in Captain America.
Yeah. Dude, the Ananerba Society, that was like a faction of the SS. That Annie Jacobson's book, Phenomena, the beginning is with that. They actually had like units going to like Egypt, like Mayan temples, China, to get these relics and shit. This was real Indiana Jones shit.
Yeah, it was going to give them all of the powers, though. Again, no one really ever explains that. They're just like, if we go get this thing, we're going to have power. It's going to be amazing.
How is it going to be power? It just fucking, it doesn't matter, because as long as you just sprinkle meth on everything.
Yeah, that's what it is. It's the Underpants Gnomes episode of South Park with methamphetamines, right? Step 1, get thing. Step 2, Step 3, power.
What it is, dude. It's almost like it's like Mark Zuckerberg in South Park, like you don't have my style, and they're like, how the fuck is he running Facebook? Just running around, but that's what Hitler was, dude. People were just like, what? One general sacked, according to Hitler, because quote, he had ideas of himself.
Well, yeah.
Well, Hitler, I don't think invading Russia would be a good idea. He'd be like, fire him now.
Oh man, so there's a bunch of stories of that sort of thing. The guys that were actually invading Russia is pretty brutal stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Reading about, like, those guys just got screwed constantly. Yeah. We're sending you oil to for tanks. We're not doing that. We're sending you food. We're not doing that. We're sending you ammo. We're not doing that. Hey, why aren't you winning the war?
Yeah. Yeah, they used to say, follow one guy with the gun. They'd say to the other guy, follow him. So when he dies, you can pick up his gun.
Yeah. I mean, they both sides, as far as I can tell, or at least for that one little section, that scene in Enemy at the Gates, which is just ridiculous, which actually probably has the best quote ever about the limited resource thing. Because the guy, one of the officers there, gives a speech that sort of ends with, how do you quantify a smile given to somebody else? There will always be something that we can't have, even if we are communist and everything else. But anyway, there's a scene where they've got the Russian soldiers, and the officer standing there with an automatic weapon. He says, one of you takes the rifle, one of you takes the ammo. The man with the rifle goes first, the man with the ammo goes second. When the man with the rifle falls, pick up the rifle and continue forward. And I was like, you need to pause for a moment and consider that these people have repelled any number, some ridiculous number over the course of time, attacks on their nation, doing this kind of thing. Can you imagine being any of the people being handed the rifle or the ammo in that scenario? You get handed the rifle, oh, they just told me I'm going to die. You get handed the ammo, you don't even get a gun to defend yourself, you just run into the hail of bullets.
Yeah, and not only that, these guys that were on Pervitin for like years, and then going into Barbarossa.
Yeah.
When the Pervitin ran out, you now have to realize that these guys were going cold turkey on meth.
Oh yeah. The meth withdrawals had to be great.
In a Russian winter.
Yeah.
Which would be hard even on meth, let alone withdrawal. Right.
Well, so that's the other thing is, if you, and I sort of wonder about this specific, I mean, certainly you know more about the pervasiveness of meth in the fucking right than I do, but if you go back and you read the commanders' journals from, God, I wish I could remember which particular group it was out there, but he's talking about basically at all times 25% of his men are ill, which might very well just be withdrawals. Because, I mean, it's not like he describes the system, the illness. He's just like, I don't know, they're sick.
They kind of seem sick. Hitler would always go to morale. He'd be like, he'd be like, I need Eucadol, which oxycodone. He's like, because I have terrible like stomach pains, and Morel would be like, it might be the opiate withdrawal, but then
It could be.
But then he'd be like, I don't want to die, so he'd be like, sure thing, Fuhrer. Hit him with it.
Oh man. See, maybe that's it. The third, way back, wrapping back to the beginning. The Third Reich is the best anti-drug campaign we could have had.
Yeah. Maybe that's let it burn itself out. It really was. Don't shoot, let them burn. Like, don't let them shoot their Pervitin. Just let them run out of supply. I mean, the British accidentally burned like the pharmaceutical, like the pill pressing plants in Berlin.
Yeah.
And then Morel ran out of drugs to give to Hitler. And after Hitler went through like a couple of days of withdrawal, he sacked Morel. He said, "Get out of here," because some RAF guy unwittingly destroyed Hitler's supply line of drugs. They have indirectly led to his suicide.
That right there. Oh man, if only there was some way to get an answer to that question, because that would be amazing.
Some dude's like, what am I even doing for the war effort? I'm just a cog in the machine opening the doors. And it's like, you just killed Hitler. You don't know it. You just killed Hitler.
In about 2 weeks now, you will have killed Hitler.
Killed Hitler. Which is just insane.
Oh man.
I mean, but there's the argument that these two physicians, Morel and Giesling, were also like the greatest American patriots because unwittingly they got Hitler just to the point where he needed
everything.
He needed speedballs just to get out of bed. They said he'd hit him with Eucadol and then he'd hit him with methamphetamine, and Hitler would stand up and, quote, put his heels on the ground. I'm not making this up. Click his tongue, bite at the air, and flap his wrists.
So you're definitely not making that up. I have a strange awareness of people who have done meth, and it is a thing they do. It's not like the most common thing in the world, but I have seen all of those things happen on semi-regular basis with some of these people. Specifically the tongue clicking thing. Lots and lots of meth heads do that. No idea why, but that kind of weird nonsense.
Some weird tick.
And then, I mean, in the standing there in almost like statuesque pose, except moving one little thing, like flapping their hands, kind of, all kind of weird stuff like that happens a lot. So
fucking weird, man. So, I kind of feel bad because I normally tell guests, I'm like, most guests opt to do like an hour just because I'll never shut the fuck up. I think I just hit the ground running from work and I realized 3 hours went by.
Don't worry about it. I'm not that shy.
Yeah. Sorry for raping your evening. I should have asked.
That's all right.
Yeah. So when I messaged you and asked you, I was like, is there anything I can like read about you? So I initially looked up Pleb Media. How do I say it?
Pleb Media is fine.
Yeah, Pleb.
I'm not that picky about it. Everybody pronounces it different and always worries that I get offended. I don't get offended.
I don't give a fuck, dude. I think I misspelled it, or I found like a duplicate account. You know how someone will make like Google, but it's spelled like GEL, just so they can get all those like typo traffic.
Yep.
I think I looked because I found a channel and it had like 7 subscribers and had like one video of like an RC car from like uploaded like 14 years ago, and I was like,
that can't be it.
That's why I was like, can you send me something? Because I was like, I'll have anyone on the podcast, but I was like, I just don't know who I don't know. Am I having on some meth head clicking his tongue? Like, so you sent me that thing, and I was just like, oh, like I didn't even have to. I was like, I just wanted to make sure you're a real person. So yeah, but whoever commented, shout out to whoever the fuck commented on that other video with Sam, Dale, and Ted Eye. But they said that you should get you on with them. I think that would be a cool episode.
Well, let's make it happen at some point. So one thing I should probably do before I get out of here, because, and by the way, you will have to have survived to the 3.5 hour mark in the podcast to find this out. And so you will find out who finished or not, which is, Dawn, why is the flag upside down? Because I get asked all the time, everywhere I go, even on my own channel.
Well, I was going to ask, and then I realized it's probably like a cast where everyone's like, how'd you break your arm? And I was like, that's probably a reason, so I'm just going to wait it out.
See, you just had to wait to literally the end.
This is the foreplay, the 2 a.m., the UFOs.
long after I did this, somebody came by and was like, you know that people who hate America run the flag upside down. I was like, no, I didn't know that, but I did know that any U.S. military installation that's under distress should raise a flag upside down to signal to any U.S. Friendly U.S. military entity that they need help. And so if you're looking around our nation right now and you don't think the country's at least a little under distress, I don't think you're looking that hard.
Okay.
So, I mean, it used to be right side up, and then we got to about 30 days of rioting, and I was like, it's time.
I was gonna say you could do like half mast. You could kind of like halfway down the screen.
Right.
Well, dude, I didn't know that, like, because sometimes I use Zoom, sometimes I use Skype, and I never knew which one mirrored and which one didn't. And then some would mirror, but then my image wouldn't be mirrored, or it would mirror the mirror. I had so many people that were like, flip your flag around. And I'd be like, I thought this was right. So I'd flip it around, and someone else would be like, flip your flag around. I finally got to like, it was episode 94, because Mike Durant was episode 95. And I was like, I cannot have a backwards American flag when I have on Mike J. Durant, the Black Hawk Down guy.
Probably no.
So I just made sure nothing was mirrored. I fucking made sure it was right. And I even emailed him beforehand. He was like, send me the Zoom link. Well, I was like, will do. I was like, by the way, disclaimer. He was like, it's cool, man. I was like, people are like, your flag's backwards. I'm just like, fuck off, suck my dick. And they're like, that's not a proportional response.
Well, yeah, you don't realize you're the 8,000th person to tell me that it's backwards.
Well, that's how I realized. I was like, flag's upside down. And I was like, well, this guy doesn't have like a purple mohawk. He's not 700 pounds with piercings on his lip, and identifies as like a foxkin, non-binary. So I was like, I don't know. This is like a communist hating thing. And yeah, but so yeah, Ted-Eye and Dale, me and Dale are besties. We text, and well, I text Dale, and sometimes he responds, and Ted-Eye he'll respond to my emails, but. They come on. I try to get those two on together because it turns into a real shit show. But Sam Colbert, that was the first time I'd ever met him, because Dale moved back to Bali. So Dale lives in fucking paradise, right? Bali, right? Trains dogs over there, super hot wife, and that's when I first had him on the podcast. I had to do it at like 11 at night because it was his time over there. That was 50, and I really do have a weird recall for episodes, but. Dale, right?
I don't remember what the Thursday show I put out was. For reference, in case you post this later, it is currently Sunday.
I just got really confused. I was like, it's Sunday? It's I need to pick your mind about like live streaming, because like I upload the Zoom file, which is like much smaller, and then like screen. That's way off topic. Dale. So Dale. That's how this first started 3.5 hours ago. That's how we got to this point. Yeah, so I'm Don, fast forward. And then Rommel, high as a kite. Someone's gonna like press, like their finger's gonna slip, and it's gonna fast forward, and there's Rommel going shooting out of the trees.
See, gonna be like, that's how it'll be, right? We'll be having like a serious conversation about the country burning, and like, hey man, there are some serious things going on here, and then a minute later, like, you know, your phone will rub in your pocket or something, or you just set your hand on it and be like, and then Rommel was doing cocaine, cruising across all of Europe.
Skip again. We should shoot more black people. Skip again. Hey, Tommy, I'm not sure. It's like an Alex Jones, Joe Rogan, where you're like, oh, cool. You fast forward to 3 minutes. Then he's like, and then the vampires, they're stealing the energy from the kids. And you're like, back it up. You're like, okay,
wait a minute. What just happened?
Yeah, I guess this plays out. But yeah, but even that, it's like 2 minutes. It's like, yeah, so it's like Dale's moving from Bali. The Zoom file. But so I remember I was like, Dale's like, hey, so I'm going to be in like Florida. I'm going to visit my daughter. And he's like, we can do another episode, but I'll be in your time zone. I was like, oh, that's cool. So this is like late 50s episode. I was like, oh, that's cool. Like not midnight. And Dale comes over. Dale went from Bali to Florida. And then the lockdown hit.
Oh, shit.
Dale's supposed to be here for 2 nights. He ended up being stuck here for like 94 days. And he finally fucking flew back. He's like, my wife is so mad at me. And like,
yeah.
But point being, So yeah, getting him and Ted up. But yeah, so I hadn't talked to Dale in like forever, opposite sides of the world. But I just got like a text from Dale last Monday, and he was like, "Yo, Tom," he's like, we're doing an episode Wednesday with my buddy. He's an Intel friend of mine. And I was just like, I guess we're doing an episode Wednesday. Like, told the guy that I was gonna have Wednesday morning. I was like, gotta bump you later in the evening. Just like no explanation. Dale says show up. I just show up. So I'm more of like a puppet government for Dale. But yeah. So Dale, but Dale,
here's press desk.
Yeah. So Dale, but Dale's friend Sam came on, and so I opened the Zoom meeting, and it's just Sam and Ted-Eye. Dale's not even there. And I'm like, what the fuck?
Okay.
So I'm talking to Ted-Eye, and I'm like, after like a minute, I'm like, how rude of me. I'm like, hey, Sam, I'm Tommy. And Ted-Eye goes, is there someone else here? I can't. I was like, I felt terrible. Dale pops in eventually. He's like, what's up, guys? It's 1 a.m. here, and Dale's drinking Icelandic vodka. But I didn't know anything about Sam. Sam seems like a cool enough dude. And I didn't know anything about him, but then I realized, I was like, if he's friends with like Dale from work-related things, I was like, there's probably a competent dude, and it seems like he's got a cool enough company, Forward Observer. So he and I, because that was an episode with him, Ted-Eye, me, and Dale, which was just a fucking shit show for an hour. He's gonna come on again Saturday, and we're gonna kind of like what I said with you. I was like, yo, let's do an episode and just like one-on-one, just kind of with every. It's super gay. It's like my first date. I'm like, let's just get the jitters out, right?
I want to feel you out a little.
I just want to know where you stand on Rommel, all right?
And cocaine.
I just come from a Christian background, and I want to know what you think about D9, all right? Because I can't be with someone that doesn't think that was a great idea.
You know what? So that might seem like a weird kind of cold opener to you, but I'm not making this up. I had sort of in the same way that we ended up here. Somebody that watches my show told somebody else, hey, you guys should talk. And hey, man, sort of the way I did, hey, look, I hear we might be talking or something. And the answer I got back was, tell me what you think of the Jews.
From me?
No, not from you. From this other guy.
I was like, yo, you are fucking, I was like, I thought that was private. I thought we were.
No. And so, I mean, this person that I've never spoken to, I have no idea who they are. This is like, tell me what you think of the Jews. And I was like, honestly, I really just don't care. I'm not invested in this. It means nothing to me. Like, I have a country that is full of problems right now that I'm very interested in fixing. We can worry about Israel and the Jews later. And he was like, oh, thank God. Because let me tell you, you ask some people that, and it's a giant tirade against the Jews. And I was like,
why would you even ask?
Only on the internet.
Why would you even lead with that, though?
I don't know, but that was the cold open question of like, so who are you? Was tell me what you think about the Jews. And I was like, I don't even know if I want to talk to you anymore.
That's what I would think, man. Because so when I looked up, when I saw like Pleb Media, I looked it up and I found that channel with 7 subscribers and the 14-year-old video of the RC car. So my first thought was, this guy commented on my video under a different account, and then like, you should talk to so and so, because I responded. I was like, yeah, cool, yeah, I'll have him on. And then like very quickly, I got an email from you, and I was like, channel with 7 subscribers, 14-year-old video of an RC car.
Yeah,
I was like, that's why I was like, can I read something about you? Because I was like, I need to make sure that this guy, isn't like fucking using like a dead gerbil as a flashlight, smoking meth. Like, hey man, I gotta go on your podcast. And so you're like,
do you mind if I tell everyone about the lizard people on your podcast?
Do you think we have enough time to talk about the Jews? I don't know how long your laptop battery is. I can let you hit my meth, but it's, have you ever heard of Irvington? Do you know who Earl Rommel is? But I saw you had on Norman Ohler. Great fan of mine. But you were like, I don't know what you mean, like read about me, but here's my, and I was like, anything I look at, you're like, here's my channel. And I didn't even look at, I looked at it and saw it was like an actual channel. That was it. I was like, that's when I was like, fuck yeah, come on, here's my number.
Right.
But I was like, I'm not gonna fucking release an inch.
Right.
I was very open with guests. I'm like, even I'm having on a NASA guy like next week. In my emails within like 3 emails, it's already emojis. It's just like man, can't wait. Me and Dale, it's like texting like 3 days. I'm just like, fuck yeah, Dale. And Dale sending me poop emojis, like, but it's, very informal. I'm very relaxed. Like whatever I do, what I do on the podcast is the exact same how I act off. But because
Can confirm.
Because there was just like 2 quick red flags. I was like, I'm not gonna text him. I'm not. And you were like, yeah, here's my company, or this is it. This is my thing. And I was like, yeah, shoot me a text, dude.
Oh, you're a real person.
I was like, yeah, no, you shoot me a text. It's fine. Fuck yeah, let's do it. And you're like, what time are we doing it? I was like, I don't know if you're real or if you're gonna try to like kidnap, kill, and or rape me.
I need to know where you're physically going to be so I can send my team of aliens to kidnap.
Do you have any allergies? Like what?
Do you have any drug allergies? This seems like a good cold opening question.
Do you have any allergies to people and or cultures? Like what the fuck? But,
oh man.
Yeah. Let me segue that into, did you know that the Jews are behind the lizard people? But I just need to know where you stand on the reptilians, right? What do you mean? Well, we all know they did 9/11 and built the pyramids, but I'll tell you about the Jews.
It's pretty obvious.
That's when you counteract them with, well, what do you want to hear?
Oh man, somebody
classified documents right here.
Somebody sent a meme my direction the other day that went something along the lines of, conspiracy theorists don't really know how to handle it when you're playing the one-upmanship game with them, right? So they're over there and they're, the George Bush did 9/11, and you come back at them with something like, oh, you believe George Bush ever existed?
Oh. That's Tim Dillon's bit. He goes, Hogan's like, have you ever heard of like the Flat Earth Society? And Dylan's like, pfft. And Dylan loves conspiracies. He goes, you ever heard about the space is fake? Hogan goes, what? He goes, let me tell you this. For all you flat earth cucks who are too afraid to take the red pill, let me tell you about space is fake. For all you conservatives that think the earth is flat.
If you people could just catch up with progress, that'd be great.
Oh yeah. Oh, hey, what? You probably think that Jesus wasn't a reptile. Get a load of this guy. You flat earth cucks.
Not to hard out you, but we have burned through the half an hour already.
3.5 hours. My computer is, we fuck nuclear fusion because this thing's about to implode under its own heat pressure right now. But it's fuck either. We're about to do this. But let's because you and I have one planned, right? We do have one planned for next week. I think, right? Are we still
no, I don't think so.
Okay. Well, I'm having on Sam this Saturday, so a week from yesterday. Basically gonna do this same sort of psychopath episode with him.
Sure.
And you kind of feel I'm out. But after that, yeah, I should that would be a cool episode. I'd love to get you, me, Sam, Ted-Eye, and Dale. And light that powder keg.
All of the things will happen. By all means.
Yeah. And yeah, I know you gotta go. Hey man, thanks for coming on. Sorry I don't live stream. I need to figure that out. And
don't worry about it. When you carve out some time ever, in fact, presuming that we communally carve out time at vaguely the same time, let me know and I'll see if I can give you a quick rundown. Some of it is complicated, but most of it's really easy.
Yeah, I'd love to pick your brain just about in general, just like putting out content, like studio equipment, and the Jews.
Well, that is the important subject.
The first two are just icebreaker small talks. The third one is, so are we getting this on or not? Because I've got a 900-part YouTube documentary to show you about how the Jews are behind gravity.
You need to understand that the Jews are behind everything, and that. Thank you for having me on your channel.
Okay, we've 3 hours, 31 minutes. I've drank 7 Deer Park bottles. Shout out Deer Park, and my laptop is
literally on fire.
It's about to go under fusion. This is because I live above my parents' garage and my internet upload speed's like 6 kilobytes a second. This might be No, but really, this episode might be up by like tomorrow night. That's how bad my internet is.
I mean, if you're running 6K, sounds like it.
Yeah, it's. I'm
Ugh.
gonna add this because if not, I'm just gonna keep going. So
Exactly. Well, thanks for having me, man. It's been good fun.
Thanks for fucking coming on, dude. I'm gonna send you that fucking Hitler drugs book, and we gotta end this. We gotta, because I'm getting excited. So we'll do another one. But yeah. Thanks for coming on, man. Stay safe.
Thanks for watching, everybody.
Thanks for watching, and if fuck it, 17 days. I'll see you later. I'll text you, buddy. All right. Thanks for coming on, man.
Bye.